Chapter 781, The World-Destroying Dragon, Shadow of Destruction. In dragon form, magic power is significantly enhanced, and resistance to magic is greatly improved. Additionally, a unique effect allows his shadow to instantly obliterate any life forms of a lower level than himself. This ability is essentially an unstoppable force capable of world destruction. John, having acquired this formidable power, never imagined he would one day resort to using it. Its overwhelming strength and lack of humanity made it a last resort. As John's shadow swept across the land, all flora withered in its wake. His presence brought decay and death, transforming him into a harbinger of doom, with his shadow acting as a scythe that harvested life from the earth. In his dragon form, not even nuclear weapons could inflict fatal damage. John's body, under the influence of time magic, was in a state of constant regeneration. His ability to circle the earth meant he could potentially extinguish all life, a testament to how far beyond human and earthly life forms he had evolved. This evolution was the result of merging multiple bloodlines, elevating him beyond mere humanity and justifying his boldness in declaring war single-handedly. At level 8, he could sustain the world's shadow form, claiming more lives than even the Battle of Magic Crystal Island had. This was the reason he avoided cities. At his speed, erasing millions of lives was a matter of mere moments. The true threat to the world was not Voldemort or Grindelwald, but him, the Shadow of Annihilation, a being that brought death joy. Gliding through the sky, the black dragon, over 100 feet in length, radiated waves of magical power. Flames escaped his nostrils and teeth as he breathed. "Coming? Then don't leave," John's voice boomed, his dragon breath transforming into a concentrated beam that ignited the air with triple Mach rings. The dragon-slaying team, tasked with his destruction, couldn't evade in time. Their alloy wings melted under the intense heat, and a powerful gust turned their aircraft into a fiery tomb, roasting the pilots within. Accelerating, John faced several fighter jets launching missiles, which froze midair before reaching him, causing the jets to collide and disintegrate. With a powerful flap of his wings, he cleared the nearby clouds, revealing another jet preparing to fire. In an instant, he vanished, reappearing behind the jet with a sonic boom. His claws tore through the aircraft like toys, and his breath annihilated 3 more jets kilometers away. The battle, lasting less than 3 minutes, ended with all fighters destroyed. John, with a flap of his wings and a whisper, "Aircraft carrier? Interesting," covered the area with his mind magic and headed towards the ocean. An aircraft carrier was adjusting its course when the Rear Admiral ordered an attack. But before the command could be executed, the clouds above split open, revealing not darkness, but flames that sliced through the steel behemoth. The ocean water evaporated into white mist, within which the god of death continued his grim harvest. The carrier shook violently, alarms blaring throughout. In the midst of the fog, the black dragon claimed lives without mercy, sparing not even the ocean itself. The Rear Admiral and his crew felt an inexplicable pain as they collapsed, witnessing their bodies convulse beyond their control. Their silver-white souls were dragged into a blue light, accompanied by the god of death's proclamation, "I am a fire dragon." The aircraft carrier, overwhelmed by this force, sank into the depths. In the depths of the sea, the black dragon, known as the Harbinger of Everlasting Darkness, earned its moniker as the World-Destroying Dragon. This title was bestowed upon it by those aware of its existence, a being beyond the realm of human defeat. In the office of the Washington White Building, a somber silence enveloped the room as officials gazed upon the defeated dragon-slaying team. The dragon, a fusion of nature's ferocity and unfathomable magic, had effortlessly tore through humanity's pinnacle of technological achievements as if they were mere paper. The operation of the Mach Ring, a weapon designed to be the ultimate deterrent, had failed spectacularly, leaving everyone in disbelief. "Is this creature even real?" someone questioned, voicing the incredulity that hung in the air. The dragon's ability to intercept a missile and unleash a Mach Ring, coupled with its shadow that seemed to consume life itself, was unfathomable. It was the embodiment of a wizard's curse, the most malevolent of all. Root, reflecting on the situation, realized the source of a certain witch's power and influence. The world-destroying dragon was, without a doubt, the most formidable weapon on Earth. Life is indeed fragile, Root mused, acknowledging the futility of human efforts against such a force. Mr. President, we must sound the alarm, an official declared, urging immediate evacuation of Washington's citizens. However, with less than 40 minutes at their disposal, the task was impossible. The president, faced with this dire situation, resolved to deploy even more powerful weapons, refusing to accept defeat. If the power of a nation cannot slay him, then he is a god, he proclaimed, determined to rally international support. The impending doom of the United States would surely mobilize other countries to confront this supernatural threat. Meanwhile, John, unaffected by the chaos below, continued his flight. His keen senses picked up on the panic of the animal kingdom, a precursor to the impending danger. As he approached a small town, inaccurately marked on his map, he activated his psychic magic, instantly connecting with the consciousness of the town's inhabitants. Among them, he detected a witch, a discovery that piqued his interest. "Who are you?" The witch's voice trembled, her mind invaded by an unknown force. Despite her considerable power, having absorbed the magic of many witches, she was defenseless against John's intrusion. Her panic was palpable, a reaction John found curious but not entirely unexpected. He speculated on her strength, considering whether she was of level 7. Below, the residents of Westview Town carried on with their lives, oblivious to the shadow looming overhead. A boy, momentarily distracted by the encroaching darkness, paused his basketball game to look up. In a residential room, the witch, sensing imminent danger, attempted to flee. Her efforts were in vain as the shadow overtook her, causing her to fall, injured and defeated. Resigned to her fate, she awaited the end, only to find herself unharmed. Confused, she opened her eyes to see the shadow recede, leaving her and the townspeople unscathed. A voice echoed in her mind, "Witch, I will not destroy you." "Who are you?" she asked, her fear mingled with curiosity. Had their roles been reversed, she might have considered absorbing his power, but now she sought only to understand the mysterious entity that had spared her. Magic power had always been her ally, but in that moment, fear was the only thing she felt. The fear that her adversary might return was overwhelming. "Call me the Witch King," the voice commanded, its tone leaving no room for disobedience. "Witch, leave this place at once." "I obey your orders, Witch King," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. It was as if she had been granted a reprieve from death itself. The terrifying encounter, filled with boundless fear and darkness, left a lasting mark on her soul. She prayed she would never have to return. Yet, fate had other plans. In the future, she would find herself back in this place, only to discover another witch standing where she once stood. John, on the other hand, had no intention of laying waste to the town. Destruction for the sake of destruction was not his aim. His display of power was merely a statement, not the actions of a mindless butcher. His journey took him across New Jersey, heading towards a destination where arrogance and governance intertwined, Washington. John's approach was calculated. He understood the importance of demonstrating strength without crossing the line into tyranny. His actions were a message, a warning to those who believed themselves untouchable. Washington was about to witness the arrival of a force unlike any other, a reminder that power could manifest in unexpected forms. Chapter 782, Moment of Human Crisis. 29 minutes into a secret online meeting, the urgency was palpable. "You mean wizard?" came a question from one participant, their words seamlessly translated into English through the headphones. The recent explosion in Poland had unveiled the existence of wizards to the world, sparking widespread concern. "The moment of crisis that belongs to mankind has arrived," declared the president in a grave tone. "No one can remain on the sidelines." The world-destroying dragon has obliterated 3 bases consecutively, resulting in over 5 casualties, someone reported. A voice retorted, "That's your dilemma. By consuming the poisoned apple, you've sown the seeds of the future. This issue now transcends the United States." The president, with a stern glance, responded, "The World Security Council was established to safeguard global safety. If wizards perceive America as vulnerable, it could embolden them." Despite the president's efforts to rally the world's superpowers, cooperation was lacking. "You launched nuclear attacks on their islands," pointed out an English speaker. "Their retaliation is to be expected." The president, visibly angered, countered, They are attacking America. The reply was swift. Remember, they struck first. Really, the man replied coolly. Strictly speaking, the assassination wasn't the wizard government's doing. You instigated all of this. How can you feign ignorance about Francis's death? The conversation intensified as the president was accused of seeking eternal life through wizard research, a move that also infuriated the Witch King. The Witch King, inquired another participant, this time in French. America seems ill-prepared to deal with the master of the wizarding world. The man clarified, wizards have no desire to be enemies with muggles. Stop distorting the truth. The president, frustrated, accused, You're defending wizards, aren't you? Yes, or rather, I speak for my friends, the man replied with a smile, revealing himself to be the British Prime Minister. He explained how the wizarding world had extended an olive branch after America's hasty exploitation of a magical crystal mine in the Atlantic. The revelation prompted other leaders to reveal themselves, from Germany, France, and even the East. They scrutinized the president, highlighting America's relative historical naivety regarding wizards. Unlike the East, where cooperation with wizards was long established, or the UK, where internal cleansing had facilitated informed decisions, America's arrogance, fueled by its dominance post-World War II, had blinded it to the potential alliances and powers within the wizarding world. The narrative unfolded further, with mentions of the Bear's bold new leader, the mysterious family in the Northland, the French Minister of Magic, and ancient beings in Germany, alluding to a complex web of alliances and understandings that America had failed to navigate, primarily due to its hubris and lack of historical ties with the wizarding community. History failed to teach him that arrogance not only fosters self-confidence, but also paves the way for destruction. Looking into history as if it were a mirror helps one understand the rise and fall of empires. Perhaps one day, our history will surpass that of the ancients, and we will find our answers. The president's expression darkened upon realizing he was on the brink of war with wizards. His thoughts had been preoccupied with profit, never anticipating that those wizards, whom they dismissed as mere sewer rats, were orchestrating significant events behind the scenes. This was indeed a moment of crisis for humanity, but it was America's crisis to face. Other nations would likely thank America for demonstrating the formidable power of wizardry. As the leader, the president understood that there were those who wished to test the limits of wizards' powers. In that case, he was prepared to resort to the ultimate measure. His eyes flashed with determination, for he refused to believe that there existed a nigh force in this world that could not be obliterated by nuclear weapons. With only 23 minutes remaining, the announcement came, 7A-10 is ready. A fighter jet, armed with a nuclear bomb, launched from the platform. A black man raced after it, exclaiming, Majafak, who authorized its launch. It was the president, sir, came the reply. Damn, the one-eyed black man, clad in a black windbreaker, sighed deeply. Next time, have a bazooka ready for me. Unable to stop the jet, he ordered a bazooka to be prepared for future use. Wizard, he muttered, watching the jet disappear into the sky. A powerful and enigmatic wizard was still out there, manipulating events from the shadows. Entering the base, he glanced at the purple crystal in the research room, now connected to a weapon. He was a keeper of secrets, privy to information unknown to others. Despite his unwavering loyalty to his country, he knew precisely when to reveal certain truths. A young archer approached him, asking, Didn't catch up? The black man nodded and moved on, observing a red-haired girl reaching into a seemingly small handbag. Yet her hands delved deeper than the bag's exterior suggested, revealing an expansive space within. An experimenter donned a ring, and the person opposite him was struck by a red light, sending him flying backward. The girl gasped, Is he dead? No, the black man replied from behind the glass, He's just frozen. His gaze returned to the bag, recognizing it as a gateway to the wizarding world. Meanwhile, bombers soared through the sky. As the pilot pressed the red switch, the nuclear bomb was released. The nuclear bomb has been launched, came the announcement. Detonation in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Over. The pilot reported dutifully. The bomb, trailing a plume of high-temperature smoke, hurtled towards the so-called Dragon of Destruction. This was humanity's last hope. If the mid-air explosion failed to eliminate the dragon, it would signify that no weapon in this world could vanquish a dragon. Time was ticking away, with only 2 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. Would this be the harbinger of destruction or the miracle they hoped for? Amidst the chaos, John frantically issued warnings as the nuclear missile approached. Chapter 783, Arrogance, the Obstacle to Survival. The aftermath of the bombing manifested as a colossal mushroom cloud, its vast expanse ensuring that not even the largest of creatures could evade its reach. The explosion, a maelstrom of shockwaves, fire, and radiation, illuminated the sky as if a second sun had been lit. In the president's office, fists clenched in triumph as cheers cascaded like a tidal wave. The so-called trump cards of the witches, the wrath of the Witch King, all seemed trivial in the face of the undeniable truth of the nuclear bomb. Human technology had once again asserted the unshakable dominance of mankind, with the United States shining as a beacon of greatness and justice. In their eyes, evil could never triumph over justice, a decree they believed to be a universal law. In their jubilation, the officials were oblivious to the fact that, amidst the devastation, the energy unleashed by the explosion was being drawn in a singular direction. The advent of the world's first firearm marked a pivotal shift, propelling the world forward. The era of cold weapons and bows as the paramount tools of war was replaced by the era of cannons and sophisticated firearms, relegating such ancient armaments to history. Modern technology, with its lighter submachine guns, all-encompassing tanks, aircraft dominating the skies, and submarines haunting the depths like phantoms, not only transformed the world, but also constrained the realm of magic. Magic's supremacy had once been in its mastery of advanced long-range spells during an age dominated by cold weapons. These arcane practices, once deemed beyond observation, began to wane post-World War II. Wizards, isolated in their sealed environments, found themselves indistinguishable from muggles in the eyes of their own kind, a realization that filled them with dread upon witnessing the might of muggle weaponry. Their previous encounters with muggles, whom they dismissed as mere wielders of iron wands incapable of magical harm, had bred a dangerous arrogance. This arrogance, a belief in the superiority of magic over the burgeoning realm of technology and missiles, led to a gross underestimation of the impact wizards could have in a world dominated by modern warfare. Such arrogance sealed the fate of many of their endeavors. The fate of the wizards captured in Plymouth Colony remained uncertain, known perhaps only to Gauss. They considered themselves the masters of this war, unaware that the true master was already moving among them within the heart of a nuclear explosion. A golden dragon, its wings unfurled like vast panels of an energy storage battery, absorbed the rampant energy with a frenzied pace. The flames and the formidable explosion failed to harm it. Instead, its scales merely shattered before regenerating at a speed visible to the naked eye. Golden blood seeped from beneath the scales, only to be reclaimed by the dragon's body as time itself seemed to halt its escape, rendering the radiation's toxins ineffective against the divine blood coursing through its veins. Stationary in the sky, the golden dragon resembled a statue, its presence halting the spread of energy beyond a kilometer. John, exhaling golden flames, opened his vertical pupils amidst the fire. His body expanded, growing from 100 feet to 200, increasing his rate of absorption. Opening his mouth, he condensed the absorbed energy into a radiant orb, akin to a miniature sun, seemingly insignificant within his vast maw. The damage inflicted by the nuclear explosion had been healed within his body. "What a nice gift," John mused, his scales shifting hues once more, a high temperature emanating from his spine, distorting the air around the thorns. "Then I should return the favor." With a flutter of his wings, a scorching wind descended from the skies, instantly scorching the earth beneath to a barren yellow. He moved swiftly, his pupils dilating as the scenery before him zoomed in rapidly. A bomber, returning from its mission, caught his eye, the orb of light in his mouth ondensed, targeting the aircraft. A beam of white, symbolizing destruction, pierced through the air at supersonic speeds. The roar of its power drowned out the engine's noise, leaving the bomber and its pilot no time to react. They were vaporized, disappearing without a trace. The beam continued its relentless path, striking the United States' 4th Military Region base directly. Mushroom clouds billowed from the impact site, a testament to the unforeseen disaster that had befallen them. Death came as swiftly as leaves falling in autumn. The base, along with the United States' unfinished plans and advanced technologies, was obliterated. Satellites captured the devastation, projecting the images back to high-ranking American officials who had been in a celebratory mood just moments before. Silence fell upon them as they witnessed the world destroyer Dragon, unscathed by the nuclear onslaught, and the base, hundreds of kilometers away, devastated by the indiscriminate attack. The air was heavy with death, making breathing a luxury. The dragon demonstrated his ability to evade, yet chose to confront the attacks head-on, indifferent to whether they were mere nuisances or desperate last resorts. He initiated a countdown, giving humanity 15 minutes to halt his advance or face annihilation. "Let's leave," someone suggested, their gaze fixed on the prematurely celebrating president. Leaving might offer a sliver of hope, a chance to flee Washington before the inevitable. But for many, there was no escape within the 15-minute window. All they could do was bid farewell to their loved ones. "Are you crazy?" Root exclaimed, unable to comprehend the defeatist attitude. "We are responsible for our people. As long as the world destroyer dragon does not come, we still have hope." "Hope?" A pessimistic official retorted. "Not even a nuclear bomb could deter him. We have no hope against an adversary whose scales remain unbroken." As the magical world's witch diplomat had warned, they had exhausted all means and were left feeling powerless, despondent, and devoid of hope. The magical realm possessed the power to bring about utter destruction, making the hunters, who once prowled the dark forests with their shotguns, the true prey. The wizards, armed with their unassailable magic, were the real hunters, ready to deliver a fatal blow to those who underestimated them. "There will be a way," Root rallied, trying to inspire hope. "We have more than just weapons. Airplanes, artillery, tanks, everything at our disposal. We cannot succumb to despair." His words managed to lift the spirits of those around him, pushing back the fear instilled by the world destroyer dragon. The cloud of despair began to dissipate, replaced by a renewed determination to face the threat head-on. Filled with renewed vigor, they reflected on the resilience of humanity. From the days of primitive societies, where blood was consumed for sustenance, to the present, humans have faced despair countless times, only to rise again. Despite its relatively brief history, America has demonstrated remarkable human qualities. Determined to halt the impending doom, they knew nuclear weapons were not an option. Such measures would not only fail to critically harm their adversary, but would also likely be absorbed and repurposed to unleash destruction. Thus, the American elite put their minds to work. An excited voice broke the silence. "There's a small town in the path of the dragon that's supposed to end the world. According to our sources, the town remains untouched." "A small town? Which one?" came the curious reply. "It's located in Westview, New Jersey." "But didn't the dragon that's supposed to end the world take life wherever it went? Could it possibly have a weakness?" The room buzzed with intense discussion. With only about 10 minutes left, they were desperate to uncover the world-destroying dragon's vulnerability, a task that seemed impossible. Then, a spark of insight struck Lute. "Perhaps the world-destroying dragon isn't as malevolent as we've assumed." He jested. Lute, a fringe diplomat, had earned respect through his insightful speeches, and no one would underestimate him. "What do you mean?" someone asked. Lute, deep in thought, clarified, "I believe we've all been caught in a misunderstanding. Maybe this world-destroying dragon didn't come for destruction. Remember that sentence, 1 hour. The time the wizard has given us is for us to do or express something. But what?" Lute's expression turned excited. "This is the dawn of a new diplomacy." Once, they were arrogant, believing in their superiority, and questioning how they could ever sit at the same table as equals. Now, the context of that sentence was about to change. This shift signified that the Muggles were finally ready to abandon their arrogance and embrace a new approach. Chapter 784, Humanity's Fragility. What does it mean to be human in the face of overwhelming power? It means showing not just the cards on the table, but also genuine humility. You can't just display the strength to defeat your opponent. You must also show enough humility to negotiate. This is the lesson taught by the dragon that threatens to destroy the world. When the news broke that the dragon had obliterated our 4 bases merely to start negotiations, everyone was incredulous. You mean, he destroyed our bases just to talk with us? The absurdity of the conclusion left people speechless and somewhat skeptical. If the goal was merely diplomatic negotiation, why resort to such extreme measures? The answer lay in our own arrogance. Root, having come to this realization, explained, "We've never actually engaged in formal negotiations with them." The room fell silent as the senior officials processed this revelation. Indeed, there had never been a formal negotiation that treated wizards as equals. The arrogance of the world's most powerful nation had led them to disregard the demands of wizards from smaller countries. Their approach to the magical world was one of greed, aiming to consume rather than cooperate. The root of all these issues was their own arrogance. With the world-destroying dragon entering Washington's airspace, there was no time left for contemplation. Decisions made now would be futile against the approaching threat. The president, faced with the gravity of the situation, looked grim. The only option was to follow Root's advice and bring the wizards back to the negotiating table. Otherwise, millions would perish under the dragon's shadow. "The responsibility falls to Root," the president announced, taking a deep breath. His own arrogance had led to this dire situation. He could already envision a bleak end to his presidency, with re-election being the least of his worries. The arrogance of the United States was about to exact a heavy toll. Washington, a bustling and diverse city, stood vulnerable under the shadow of the approaching threat. With only minutes left, the city felt the ominous presence of dark clouds on the horizon. Despite reports of a terrorist attack and subsequent evacuations, there was a palpable lack of security. The military presence, with tanks lining the streets, did little to reassure the populace. In this moment, humanity's vulnerability was starkly evident. The cause of this fear was a dragon, a colossal beast unlike any seen before. The dragon of destruction, summoned by human arrogance, threatened to erase Washington and, by extension, the United States from history. Root arrived at the scene by helicopter, visibly exhausted from the day's events. Beside him, the president, surrounded by bodyguards and agents, attempted to salvage some dignity in his final moments. "If this were a terrorist attack, perhaps you could protect me, but against this force, your efforts are futile," Root remarked, highlighting the insignificance of human defenses against such power. The president, standing beside Root, expressed his remorse. "My pride and arrogance led to this," he admitted. Root, however, offered some consolation. "We were all blinded by arrogance," he said, acknowledging the shared fault. The president reflected on missed opportunities for peace, attributing the current crisis to a collective human failing. "We've ignored too many chances to extend our goodwill," he lamented, recognizing the role his own decisions played in the unfolding disaster. As the dragon drew closer, the fate of humanity hung in the balance, a stark reminder of the consequences of arrogance and the urgent need for humility and cooperation. Despite suspicions of leniency, the president genuinely faced no significant issues. The real problem was Francis, whose actions nearly drove wizards and humans to an irreparable divide, culminating in a war to resolve the conflict. "With tens of thousands of soldiers in this area, we're still at a loss against the capabilities of the giant dragon," Root suggested. He reminded everyone of the incident in Westview Town, which demonstrated the dragon's ability to control its lethality. "No number of soldiers will suffice. The dragon's shadow alone could annihilate them instantly." The president, considering Root's advice, realized the futility of massing soldiers only for them to face certain death. He decided to disperse the soldiers across various regions, leaving only 2 individuals behind. Leaning against the car door, the president, unfazed by Root's astonishment, lit a cigarette and took a deep drag, exhaling a cloud of smoke. Known for his polished public image, few were aware of his smoking habit, a stark contrast to the persona he projected. In a rare moment of personal connection, the president mentioned Root's daughter, suggesting Root return home. "If this fails, you can say goodbye to your family," he stated solemnly. Root, however, expressed pride in his daughter's accomplishments and shared anecdotes about her life, revealing a lighter side to their grim situation. As they prepared for the imminent arrival of the world destroyer dragon, their conversation shifted to more personal reflections, bonding over shared experiences as fathers. The dragon, initially a speck in the distance, now loomed large, its oppressive presence and the darkening sky signaling the gravity of the threat they faced. The sight of the dragon sparked panic in Washington, with chaos erupting as fear spread like wildfire. Root and the president, confronted by the palpable sense of doom, found themselves paralyzed by fear. The president's cigarette burned down to his fingers, a physical reminder of the situation's severity. As death's shadow crept closer, both men were consumed by thoughts of their inevitable demise, yet Root's resolve was reignited by thoughts of his daughter, Dor, pushing him to prompt the president into action. Despite their resignation to fate, the urgency of the moment spurred them into motion, a testament to their determination in the face of overwhelming odds. Drenched in cold sweat, they felt the shadow looming ever closer. It advanced slowly, reducing the distance to just 2 meters, then 1, half a meter, 30 centimeters, 3 inches, and finally an inch before it halted. Just when they were about to sigh in relief, shadows enveloped them without warning. A massive body descended from above, accompanied by a gust of hot wind that encircled them. The force of the landing pushed the car backward, and they braced themselves, struggling to remain upright. Once the turbulent air from the dragon's descent subsided, they opened their eyes, which had been forced shut by the wind. Facing death seemed inevitable at that moment. Looking up, the colossal figure appeared as a harbinger of death itself. The world-destroying dragon, with its fierce minions and light-absorbing black scales, made breathing a laborious task for the president, who clutched at his heart. Root, however, quickly assessed his surroundings from the shadows, his face unexpectedly shedding any sign of fear. "Success!" he exclaimed, grabbing the president's arm and shaking him. "Our lives have been spared." This indicated that, as he had speculated, the World Destroyer Dragon had come for negotiation and diplomacy, not for destruction. This was an unprecedented piece of good news. With Root's reminder, the president also came to his senses. As frail humans, they had been granted a sliver of life. Now, the question was how to communicate with the dragon. Chapter 785, A Negotiation with the Witch King. Just as the two were grappling with their predicament, the scenery around them shifted. Before they fully comprehended what was happening, they found themselves in an expansive, desolate manor. The room, vast and empty, contained only a sofa and a table. Seated on the sofa was a young man with black hair, dressed in an opulent wizard robe, leisurely holding a cup of black tea. "Please sit down." The young man's voice carried an undeniable authority. The president and Root exchanged puzzled looks, uncertain of their whereabouts. However, they had a hunch about the identity of the person before them. Root scanned the room and inquired, "Where should we sit?" "Anywhere," John replied, arching an eyebrow. Almost involuntarily, Root found himself seated, with the president beside him. "Black tea or coffee?" John asked, continuing the conversation. "Coffee," the president responded, adjusting his tie to ease his discomfort. Looking intently at John, he asked, "Have we met before?" "Mr. President seems to have a short memory," John remarked with a chuckle. "Do you not recall last night?" The president's memory jogged at the mention of the previous night, the voice that had spoken to him. "Are you the Witch King?" It was unexpected for the president that the so-called Witch King was a young man. "Clearly, that's the case," John responded nonchalantly. Realizing his earlier mistake, the president said, "Forgive my previous rudeness. I hope we can start a new negotiation." "Oh?" John raised his cup, and the teapot levitated, pouring him more tea. He sipped his tea and said indifferently, "I once extended kindness to you, Mr. President. In return, you've harmed wizards, attacked the Magic Crystal Island, and arrested wizards in the Plymouth colony. You've disdainfully referred to wizards as mice," John continued, shaking his head. "But you seem to forget that during the Middle Ages, mice were the carriers of the Black Death." John's demeanor lacked the deference one might expect in addressing a powerful national leader. Instead, he was composed and overly calm. "Considering your actions and the situation with Francis, how should I repay your goodwill?" John's calm, yet pointed words made the president uneasy. Realizing his previous arrogance was a mistake, The president listened as John stated, "Equality is what I demand, and I've shown it to you. Now it's your turn to convince me." The presence of the Dragon of Destruction at Washington's gates significantly increased the pressure on them. John further intensified this pressure by revealing a pocket watch indicating less than 3 minutes remained. As the second hand ticked away, Root took a deep breath and earnestly said, "We apologize for our previous arrogance, respected Witch King, but I believe you didn't come here to bring destruction." "Isn't it destruction?" John smiled. "Many places in America have been destroyed." "Yes, I'm aware," Root replied earnestly. "But Westview is an exception, isn't it? Your attacks targeted the bases imprisoning wizards." "At this point, I see your mercy," Root added. "Mercy? I never thought my actions would be described as such," John remarked, somewhat amused. "You've made a compelling argument, Mr. Root. Keep trying. Perhaps you'll fully convince me." Root sensed John's patronizing tone, but pressed on. "Equality is essential for any meaningful dialogue. Destroying Washington won't benefit the wizarding world." "You're mistaken," John countered playfully. "Wizards need a land to call home. Washington seems quite suitable." With a snap of his fingers, John changed the scenery. The stark room transformed into a white space, gradually morphing into an area with fewer towering buildings and more modern features, suggesting a significant shift was underway. Civilization has often been built on the backs of violent conquests. In the past, the United States was founded through the massacre of the natives of this land, John remarked, his tone casual as he relaxed into the sofa, letting go of the cup he had been holding. "Killing is the essence of development. I am merely replicating what has already been done," he added, seeing no fault in his logic. The president, caught off guard by John's blunt comparison, attempted to differentiate. "No, it's different. We were fighting for survival." "So am I," John retorted sharply, his eyes piercing. "Have you forgotten who is being forced from their lands? It's us, the wizards." The president found himself at a loss for words, unable to justify the persecution of wizards when faced with John's pointed questions. Root, observing the exchange, saw an opportunity to steer the conversation towards diplomacy. Despite the president's lack of finesse in diplomatic matters, Root maintained his composure. "You cannot replicate the feats of the United States," he calmly stated, locking eyes with John. "The world operates on different rules now. Destroying Washington or leading wizards to occupy lands will not be tolerated. Every nation, including your allies, would unite against you." Root continued, emphasizing the importance of diplomacy over brute force. "You can offer friendship to other nations, signaling that wizards do not wish to be enemies of humanity." John, impressed by Root's diplomatic approach, acknowledged the wisdom in his words. He had no real intention of destroying Washington or rebooting the world. He understood that such extreme actions would only unite humanity against the wizarding world. What John sought was to force the most powerful nation to make concessions, using the threat of the Dragon of Destruction as a magical deterrent rather than an actual weapon. "You're right. It is easier to die than to create," John conceded, "and I have no desire to rebuild from scratch." The president and Root both felt a sense of relief at John's words. Root, in particular, felt vindicated in his approach, knowing that his diplomatic efforts had potentially saved millions of lives. Root then made a concession. "The United States will not interfere with the development of wizards. This is our offer." However, John found the offer insufficient. "Not enough," he stated firmly. "The United States must permanently recognize the independence of the Magic Kingdom and cease the persecution of its citizens." With a snap of his fingers, John transformed the setting back to the manor. "I demand official recognition of the Magic Kingdom. Anyone who practices magic shall be considered a citizen of this kingdom." His demands were firm, yet not unreasonable, aiming for a future where wizards could coexist peacefully with the rest of the world. Embarrassing. The situation was awkward beyond measure. Standing in the middle of the room, surrounded by curious eyes, I felt a heat creeping up my neck, painting my cheeks a deep shade of crimson. It was one of those moments where the ground beneath me seemed to vanish, leaving me wishing fervently for an escape from the intense scrutiny. The silence that enveloped the room was deafening, punctuated only by the occasional shuffle of feet or the soft clearing of someone's throat. It was as if time had slowed down, each second stretching into an eternity, each gaze weighing heavily upon my shoulders. I tried to muster the courage to speak, to break the uncomfortable silence that hung between us like a thick fog, but words failed me, my mouth dry, my throat tight. The embarrassment was overwhelming, a tangible force that seemed to press down on me, making it hard to breathe. In my mind, I replayed the events that had led to this moment, each detail etched with crystal clarity. It was a simple mistake, a misunderstanding that could have been easily resolved. Yet, here I was, the center of attention for all the wrong reasons, my blunder laid bare for all to see. The room was filled with familiar faces, friends, and acquaintances I had known for years. Yet in that moment, they felt like strangers, their eyes reflecting a mixture of amusement, confusion, and perhaps a hint of sympathy. It was a strange sensation, feeling so isolated in a room full of people, a solitary figure on display. As the seconds ticked by, I realized that the only way out of this predicament was to face it head-on. Gathering the remnants of my shattered dignity, I cleared my throat, the sound echoing awkwardly in the silent room. With a deep breath, I began to explain, my voice shaky at first but gradually gaining strength. I spoke of the misunderstanding, the series of unfortunate events that had led to this moment of embarrassment. I tried to infuse my words with humor, hoping to lighten the mood, to transform the awkwardness into a shared joke. Slowly, the tension in the room began to dissipate, replaced by smiles and soft laughter. As I concluded my explanation, I was met with nods of understanding, the earlier amusement fading into empathy. The relief that washed over me was palpable, a weight lifted off my shoulders. The embarrassment that had once seemed insurmountable now felt like a distant memory, a fleeting moment of discomfort. In the end, the incident served as a reminder of the power of communication, of the importance of facing our fears and embracing our vulnerabilities. It was a lesson learned in the most unexpected of ways, a moment of embarrassment transformed into an opportunity for growth and connection. Chapter 786, Then I Am Your God. Anyone who uses magic should be considered a citizen of the wizarding world, right? John proposed this idea with the intention of providing a safeguard for wizards born into Muggle families. He realized it was unrealistic to expect these individuals to completely sever ties with the wizarding community. Therefore, he aimed to offer Muggle-born wizards a form of protection. Once a Muggle-born wizard utilized magic, they would automatically gain citizenship in the Magic Kingdom and enjoy its protections. Upon hearing this proposal, Root felt a sense of relief. It seemed the Witch King was still within the realm of reason. However, the president's demeanor was grave. The potential of wizards had not gone unnoticed by the world's nations, many of which had already considered the formation of magical troops. The idea that a wizard raised in an American family, educated in American ways, could potentially be trained as a wizard loyal to the United States was not far-fetched. Yet, given the immediate crisis, caution was paramount. John was patient. Glancing at the time, he mentioned casually, "There is 1 minute left." The two men hastily checked the pocket watch, realizing only a minute remained. Time was running out. "We must agree to his terms," Root urged the president, anxiety evident in his voice. "No, he wouldn't dare destroy Washington," the president countered, willing to gamble. As long as Washington remained unscathed, he believed there was room to negotiate. Root was frantic. Despite the Witch King's apparent agreement, no one could be certain of his true intentions. Rash decisions could plunge the world into chaos. It was unclear if the Witch King's words were merely a bluff. Root glanced at John, noting the young Witch King's calm demeanor as he leisurely sipped his black tea. Only 30 seconds remained. The president was still resistant, but Root was desperate. "Forget those damn protocols. We need to protect the American people," he exclaimed. "If we lose what's behind us, America will be divided." In a bold move, he grabbed the president by the collar, his voice laced with urgency. "Do you want to become a martyr, a testament to the Witch King's power?" This jolted the president to reality. The immediate threat was more pressing than future concerns. He checked his pocket watch, the last 10 seconds ticking away as the surrounding white light intensified, threatening to engulf them. "I agree," the president exclaimed, just as the white light nearly consumed them. I recognize the Magic Kingdom and its citizenship, he declared. The pocket watch's second hand paused at the last second, then began moving backward. John smiled. Good choice. The watch's time reset to 3 minutes past. Now let's discuss other matters, John suggested, raising an eyebrow. Isn't it over yet? Root muttered under his breath, his frustration palpable. His understanding of wizards, limited to the day's events, left him puzzled as to why, with such immense power, wizards had never sought world domination. After all, with the capability to summon a world-destroying dragon, conquering the world in the age of cold weapons, let alone its destruction, seemed within reach. John then outlined proposals for the coexistence of the wizarding and muggle worlds, marking the beginning of true diplomatic negotiations. This was diplomacy on equal footing. Root realized the importance of not underestimating anyone, especially beings capable of annihilation and possessing formidable intellect. The president's presence signified the United States' commitment to these resolutions. Suddenly, Root noticed the pocket watch had stopped moving. He was certain their negotiation had lasted over an hour, yet they remained in the manor, the sunlight from outside unchanged. Had time itself been frozen in this world? The enigmatic being known as the Witch King was shrouded in mystery. With the United States pledge, they joined other nations in a united effort within the United Nations Parliament, marking a new chapter in global diplomacy. To formally acknowledge the existence of the Magic Kingdom was akin to unveiling a mystery. John had no desire for the wizarding world to deviate from the Muggles' path, nor did he wish for them to be overly influenced. I want to know about the magic crystal, the Witch King, the president suddenly declared. Root, upon hearing the mention of something that nearly jeopardized the American national games, grew anxious. However, the president, far from mediocre, fixed his gaze on John and inquired, "Is that thing truly a source of clean energy?" "Are you curious?" John responded with a chuckle. "I can provide you with the answer, but first, I'd like to hear your thoughts, Mr. President." "I'm not withholding anything. If it's true, the American government is willing to purchase magic crystals from the Magic Kingdom for energy purposes," the president stated, his eyes sparkling with interest. "Even wizards need to develop their economy." "You've surprised me, Mr. President," John acknowledged with a nod. "The essence of the magic crystal is magic transformed into a physical form. It's stable and pollution-free, that's no lie. But—" John paused meaningfully. "Are you certain you want to utilize this?" After a moment of contemplation, the president nodded emphatically. "I hope it can be used." "Well then, we will discuss this further in the future," John said with a smile. "However, I must inform you that the price is not insignificant. As the main export of the magical kingdom, unprocessed by wizards, what one receives is akin to a slow poison that will corrode Muggle items." John was open to introducing a hint of magical wonder into the Muggle world, but sought to avoid excess. "How wonderful it would have been if we could have engaged in this calm dialogue from the start," John remarked, reflecting on their conversation. This left the president feeling somewhat embarrassed, unaware that the extra confidence he now felt was influenced by John. From the perspective of the entire situation, aside from the significant losses on the American side, the wizards faced no mishaps. Well, there was one exception. A martyr had willingly laid down his life at the feet of the Witch King. "I believe we'll meet again soon," John said, a mysterious smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Outside, the sun grew larger, eventually enveloping the president and Root in its light. They experienced a sensation akin to dreaming of falling down steps, their bodies twitching amidst a cacophony of voices. "Mr. President." Upon opening his eyes, the president was greeted by a dozen anxious faces. "I am." Confusion clouded his vision as Root also awoke. They found themselves lying on the ground, their backs aching from the fall. "Where's the World Destroyer dragon?" Root quickly inquired, grabbing a bystander. The man replied fearfully, "We don't know. The dragon vanished suddenly, and we found you two on the ground upon our arrival." Could it have been a dream? The president and Root exchanged glances. Moments ago, they were in a manor, and in the blink of an eye, they found themselves back in Washington, as if they had merely been asleep. Checking the time, they noted it was an hour before the agreed time, with the clock's hand just jumping to the last second. An hour was just right. They had prevented the arrival of the destroyer dragon. In the aftermath, wizards gradually became beings feared by human hunters. The world destroyer dragon's disappearance served as a testament to the wizard's power to change the course of events. No malice could be brought to the table until the Muggles could confront the dragon. Meanwhile, John continued his vigil. "If you refuse to treat me as a human, then I shall become your god," he declared, staring at his right hand, which bore an open wound. The blood flowing from it was as rich as the sands of time and golden in color. He was ascending the steps toward divinity. Under the protection of John Wick, the Muggle-estimated wizard would thrive. He was the sharpest and most terrifying spear, the most indestructible shield in the wizarding world. Only a god could command such awe from the people. Chapter 787, Negotiation. Take it easy. The existence of wizards is no secret among the high-level echelons of various countries. Following the American War, the world has been compelled to reassess this ancient existence. When one possesses the power to change the course of events, all criticism falls silent. The Dragon of Destruction, the Prime Minister mused, his tone laced with a mix of schadenfreude over the United States, predicament, and a growing sense of fear and worry. Even nuclear bombs cannot destroy it. No country in the world today has the means to do so. Perhaps the entire world combined wouldn't suffice, he added thoughtfully. He turned his attention to Mycroft, the only person in the room capable of engaging in a meaningful discussion about this crisis that concerned not just the UK, but the entire globe. "What's your assessment, Mycroft?" Mycroft, ever calm, replied, "The sword of Damocles hangs over us all. We are not the only ones who are worried." "And the wizards?" the Prime Minister interjected, skepticism evident in his voice. "They have every reason to be concerned," Mycroft countered. "The world-destroying dragon, their trump card, has been revealed." Mycroft continued, "We know that, akin to nuclear bombs, the most dangerous are those hidden in the shadows. By revealing their hand, they've essentially leveled the informational playing field," he explained. Mycroft always believed that information was a crucial factor in determining the outcome of any conflict. The Witch King, by dominating the war and drawing global attention, aimed to secure an equal footing for wizards in the future with a single, decisive move. Why wouldn't he seek greater expansion with such power? Mycroft pondered. The answer lay in numbers. Wizards were limited by their numbers, just as there was only one World Destroyer dragon. This limitation was precisely why, despite the inability of nuclear bombs to kill the Dragon of Destruction, they could still threaten wizards. The true power lay not with the wizards, but with the World Destroyer dragon and the Witch King. "The very nature of wizards limits their potential, Mr. Prime Minister," Mycroft stated, his voice steady. "Our fear stems from facing the unknown. Give it a year, 3 years, 5 years, and nations will begin to respond," he predicted. "Wizards may have shown their hand, but the world's 5 most powerful countries still hold their cards close to their chests. Every country is a gambler, with their cards representing ever-changing and evolving unknowns. In this game, the one who reveals their hand is not the one to be feared. The world is not short of intelligent individuals. They are merely momentarily taken aback, much like when the power of the nuclear bomb was first unveiled. Initially, there was fear, but it was quickly followed by a global race to harness that power. Wizards, by comparison, are at a disadvantage, lacking the means to create another World Destroyer dragon. Understanding this, the Prime Minister felt a sense of relief. "Yes, Mr. Prime Minister," Mycroft said as he pushed a document across the table, hinting at the need for adaptation. "We also need to change our approach." Upon opening the file, the Prime Minister read, "Project Roundtable? I have always trusted your judgment, and I will continue to do so," the Prime Minister affirmed after a moment of contemplation. "Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister," Mycroft responded, watching as the Prime Minister signed the document. With this, Mycroft was granted the authority to select individuals worldwide for the Roundtable project. In facing wizards, they would need allies with diverse capabilities. June. At the United Nations, tension was palpable as representatives from various countries gathered, marking a historic moment. Among them, an unusual figure stood out. A young man with red hair and freckles, dressed in a suit that seemed slightly out of place in this formal assembly. His name was Percy Weasley, and he was there to represent a nation that many had never heard of before, the Magic Kingdom. This was a place yet to be recognized by the global community, and its presence at the United Nations sparked curiosity and whispers among the attendees. America had sent Root, a hero celebrated for his pivotal role in a time of crisis, to represent them. Upon noticing Percy, Root approached him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Hello, Mr. Weasley," he greeted. Percy, who had recently gained prominence alongside his girlfriend, was now striving to ensure that the magical community was not overshadowed, especially in such a significant forum. The recognition of the Magic Kingdom by the United Nations could offer numerous benefits to the wizarding world, despite their general indifference to Muggle validation. Percy responded to Root's inquiry about the absence of the Witch King with a firm statement, emphasizing the independence of their nation. Root detected a hint of displeasure in Percy's tone, though he couldn't fathom any personal grievance that might have caused it. This exchange did not go unnoticed by the other representatives, who saw it as an opportunity to express their collective intention to welcome the Magic Kingdom into the United Nations. The consensus among the 5 good men was clear. The magical community's inclusion was essential, not only for the sake of unity, but also as a precaution against the formidable threats their world could unleash, such as the terrifying dragons. This momentous occasion was broadcasted to the wizarding world, where it was watched with bated breath. Mrs. Weasley, upon spotting Percy on the screen, rushed to join her husband, both swelling with pride. Similarly, in a castle floating in the sky, Edgar and his companions gathered around the television, each with their own reasons for being there. Ludwig, in particular, was puzzled by Gresham's presence, given his usual disinterest in such matters. Meanwhile, at Greenglass House, a tense encounter unfolded between Mr. Greengrass and Draco Malfoy, who had arrived unexpectedly. Despite the palpable animosity, Astoria managed to defuse the situation, at least temporarily. Malfoy, sensing the deep-seated disdain the Greengrass family held for him, couldn't help but worry about his future with Astoria. As the United Nations prepared to vote on the Magic Kingdom's application, it was clear that this was more than a mere formality. The decision would symbolize a groundbreaking acknowledgement of the magical community by the Muggle world, bridging 2 realms that had long existed separately. The anticipation was high, both within the halls of the United Nations and among the wizards and witches watching from afar, as they awaited a verdict that could change their world forever. The first to cast their vote was the United Kingdom, quickly followed by France and Germany, each pressing the agree button in succession. The representative from Mao Xiongguo glanced around, murmuring something under his breath before also agreeing. The 5 major powers declared that smaller countries had no say in the matter, casting their influential votes one after the other. The representative from Neon, however, appeared unconvinced and cast a vote against the proposal. Neon, having once held the most advantage in the magical world, found itself discredited due to John's strategic maneuvers. Understandably, they were not in favor of the establishment of the Magic Kingdom. Yet, how could such a small country alter the course of events? Another decisive vote in favor was cast, shifting the focus to the East. In the East, the true power did not lie with Neon, but with another entity. As the voting progressed, the only remaining obstacle for the Magic Kingdom's admission into the United Nations was another superpower, America. Given its role as a stepping stone for the Magic Kingdom's ascent onto the global stage, it wouldn't be surprising if the United States harbored some resentment towards wizards. However, faced with undeniable power, even the mightiest nation had to bow. The American representative, Root, pressed yes. With that, all suspense was dissolved. The Magic Kingdom was officially admitted into the United Nations, becoming a recognized member. Wizards, once hidden and stateless, now had a nationality of their own, the Magic Kingdom. Chapter 788, Muggle Concession, Praise the Witch King. Dignity is found only at the edge of the sword, and truth lies within the range of a cannon. While the wizarding world may not have cannons, it does have the Witch King. The Witch King's sword forges dignity for all wizards. Beneath the dragon's breath, the wizard's truth is revealed. Praise the Witch King, he has crafted a new world for us. Praise the Witch King echoes throughout Diagon Alley and Nocturne Alley. This world, teetering on the brink of destruction, has been revitalized under the Witch King's leadership. He has elevated wizards, allowing them to live openly and proudly. Make magic great again is the rallying cry. John Wick, a man of his word, has proven he will confront the world for his people. Praise the kindness of the Witch King. To the Witch City Registry, hurry. Ginny, now a graduate, was approached by Fredella, who shouted with all her might. The title of Witch King is fitting. He possesses both the dominance and the compassion required of a king. The crown, though worn on his head, never places him above others. Yet, in times of crisis, his steadfast figure inspires those who follow him. To wear a crown is to bear its weight. Henceforth, the world will know only one Witch King, John Wick, also known as Silverhand Johnny. John listens to the cheers with a calm demeanor. Tang Mi, watching the child he saw grow up become the Witch King, is in awe. John has brought equality to werewolves and wizards alike. My lord, are you unhappy? Tang Mi asks tentatively, sensing something amiss in John's satisfaction. John shakes his head. I'm very happy, Tang Mi. Yet Tang Mi hesitates, noticing a hint of fatigue in John's eyes. Approaching John, he feels an unexpected chill, as if facing a block of ice radiating coldness. John begins, masking his tiredness. I foresee a lot of exhaustion in the future. Indeed, being the king of the wizarding world is a daunting task. He is the sole deterrent against muggles, bound to this role to maintain peace. The Witch King symbolizes fairness, embodying numerous roles without which the wizarding world would descend into chaos. Like a fire dragon guarding its eggs, he must remain ever vigilant. This realization dims Tang Mi's joy. What is celebrated in the wizarding world is, in truth, a burden for John. Grindelwald's attempt to replace John Wick with the Witch King, though unsuccessful, has left John shackled by responsibilities. Take a break, my lord, Tang Mi suggests, feeling a heavy heart. He recognizes his own selfishness in wishing John to maintain his position for their protection. John Wick, now the Witch King, is what the world needs, despite the personal cost. Tang Mi cannot convince him to abandon his duties, acknowledging that he, like many others, yearns for the protection of the Witch King over the individual John Wick. With a heavy heart, Tang Mi departs, loathing his selfishness. John, left alone in his office, sighs, Witch King. A long life is the magic world's safeguard. As long as the Witch King exists, the Wizarding Kingdom will endure through decades, centuries, and millennia. John contemplates the longevity of his role, realizing the sacrifices it entails. Becoming a guardian means losing personal freedom, a realization that weighs heavily on him. John shook his head, dismissing the thought that level 8 would be the pinnacle of his life. Such a life was not for him. Perhaps I should seize the opportunity while the country is being established to pursue my own interests, he mused. The thought of Percy and the others getting married crossed his mind, and he realized he hadn't inquired about their plans. The Muggle concession was more than a mere acknowledgement. It was a gesture of respect towards wizards. One key right was extradition. Any country that apprehended a wizard would have to extradite them back to the Magic Kingdom. Additionally, individuals born in various countries who practiced magic would become citizens of the magical country. These provisions caused dissatisfaction among some nations, including Neon, which declared, "We do not recognize the existence of this country. All wizards should be managed by their respective countries." Neon's stance was one of reluctance, but given the circumstances, their options were limited. Percy, addressing the United Nations, calmly announced he had documents to share, documents that had not been previously distributed. He revealed that the Magic Kingdom had uncovered a case of human experimentation in Neon, implicating the Neon government's involvement in the magical world. The document, detailed with pictures and text, silenced the room. The Neon representative, upon reviewing the document, angrily denounced it as fake and attempted to destroy it, only to find it indestructible. The document detailed inhumane experiments and listed individuals involved, including members of the Wanshi lineage and perpetrators of mass murder. Percy's cold demand for an explanation put the Neon representative on the defensive, as the document not only implicated the murder of Muggles, but also of wizards worldwide. The neon representative's vague promise of an investigation did little to quell the tension. The United Nations decided to form an investigation team, marking a significant intervention and signaling the failure of Neon's attempt to prevent the recognition of the Magic Kingdom. The establishment of a magical country was now inevitable, a trend that no opposition could reverse. The United States, having recently faced defeat, was not in a position to influence its allies. Other countries, on the other hand, were eager to witness the power of the magical world. This United Nations meeting was a pivotal moment for the Magic Kingdom, smoothing its integration into the global community. Despite some countries' skepticism, the idea of rejecting the Magic Kingdom was seen as futile. Magic has always been a force of wonder, yet a new country has quietly emerged on the world stage, adding a fresh chapter to the annals of history. The meeting concluded, and Percy returned to the wizarding world. Standing outside the door, he observed the lively atmosphere within his home. The return of Ginny had rekindled the family's vibrancy. "You created all this, John," he thought to himself, reflecting on the magical achievements wrought by the blade of the Witch King. Yet, amidst the greatness, a question lingered in Percy's mind. "Witch King, aren't you tired?" His heart felt a touch of heaviness as he departed from the place, a realm surrounded by both threats and allies. This sentiment made it clearer why nations showed respect towards the magical world, often as a matter of prestige. "We're just getting started," Percy sighed, acknowledging the long journey ahead. To evolve into a nation capable of standing on its own, engaging with the external world through its inherent strength, the magical community had much to learn. It was still in its infancy in many ways. Percy adjusted his mood, determined not to let his contemplations disrupt the harmonious and joyful atmosphere that enveloped him. The path forward was daunting, yet the promise of what could be achieved spurred him on, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead in the quest for magical greatness. Chapter 789, The Era of Magic Deterrence. The world has entered an era marked by the deterrence of magic. The existence of magic is no longer a secret kept from the nations of the world. Some countries have even begun to search for traces of wizards. Fortunately, John had the foresight to gather the wizards together before any nation could act on their curiosity. Capturing a few wizards would not unveil the secrets of magic. The Witch King and the Wizard operate on a completely different level. Mysterious organizations from America arrived at the site of a great battle, hoping to use modern technology to analyze magic. However, their efforts were in vain. Whether it was a plane crash or a nuclear bomb explosion, there was no evidence left behind. "He didn't even shed a drop of blood," remarked a man in a windbreaker, his face etched with apprehension. The absence of any trace only underscored the terrifying nature of magic. A dragon, brimming with magical power, had deterred nations armed with nuclear weapons. The size of the dragon remained unknown, as did the manner in which it vanished over the Atlantic Ocean and reappeared in Washington. Shrouded in mystery, this event made humanity question the future of technology. Is technology really the future of mankind? A scientist pondered, though no answer was forthcoming. Magic and technology are both miraculous in their own right. Humanity has progressed by relying on such miracles, and it would be unwise to forsake one for the other. "We need that plan," declared the man in the trench coat to his aide, holding a strangely modified pager in his hand. He had considered using it before the Dragon of Destruction threatened Washington, but to no avail. "The dragon that destroys the world, the Witch King," he muttered, unfamiliar with the terms. Among his team, one individual looked on with pity, lamenting the dragon's lack of genetic material, which thwarted his plans to acquire powerful genes. In the United Kingdom, the coexistence of wizards and non-magical people is not a new concept. Merlin, a renowned wizard, is a well-known figure even among Muggles. The UK, with its rich history, views the presence of wizards and magical occurrences as part of its heritage. This perspective gives the UK a unique advantage over other nations, especially since the Witch King originated from its lands. Mycroft arrived at the Wick residence, only to be greeted by Mrs. Wick. Ariana, observing the visitor, clutched her bear and watched Mycroft intently. "I'm looking for Watson, ma'am," Mycroft stated, maintaining his gentlemanly demeanor while subtly gathering information about Mrs. Wick. The Wick family, with ties to the ancient Jovanoviches and connections to Mao Xiang's new president, was shrouded in mystery, even to Mai. "He's not at home," Mrs. Wick replied, her eyes hinting at danger, but her smile remaining polite. Mycroft, undeterred, suggested he knew Watson's whereabouts, implying his involvement with an internationally wanted arms dealer in Sokovia. For a moment, Mycroft appeared as a ravenous wolf before a dignified woman, quickly deducing that Mrs. Wick was no ordinary woman. After Mycroft's departure, Mrs. Wick turned to Ariana, who looked back at her mother with confusion. "I think we need to change our holiday plans, little Ariana," Mrs. Wick said with a smile that carried an undercurrent of danger. Ariana, sensing something amiss, shook her head, dismissing the thought as mere illusion. Dispelling the odd thoughts, Mrs. Wick was surely safe. The perception of wizards was evolving globally, and concurrently, the wizarding community was influencing nations yet to emerge. Discussions and amendments to wizarding law were rampant, overseen by the Supreme Arbitration Court of Wizards. As the Witch King, John was integral to these proceedings. A significant reform was the reintegration of the Ministry of Magic, establishing branches in each country akin to consulates responsible for overseeing wizards and magical creatures. Percy was appointed as the inaugural minister of Magic of the Kingdom of Magic, while Ozzyherd was reassigned to the Wizards' Court. This shift introduced new career paths, including advocates in wizarding courts. John recalled Dumbledore's defense of Harry at the Wiesengamat, a time when power overshadowed justice. However, John envisioned courts where justice was paramount. Quidditch was separated from the Ministry of Magic, now managed by the Ministry of Sports and the Quidditch Committee, streamlining the previously convoluted Ministry of Magic. John implemented sweeping changes without opposition, as the wizarding world relied on him for survival. In the Muggle world, his authority surpassed that of an emperor. As wizarding laws expanded, John initiated the establishment of migration marks in wizarding communities worldwide, leveraging his alchemy skills to undertake this massive task. The alchemy department was tasked with creating a giant magic detector to identify young wizards worldwide, a foundational step for integrating them into the wizarding community without force. John discovered uneducated wizards during his travels, realizing the need to govern rather than eradicate them. This governance fell under the Magic Kingdom, a key negotiation point with various countries. The Wizengamot system was set to merge into the Supreme Arbitration Court of Wizards, managing critical cases through voting rights. While John was engrossed in these endeavors, his friends were equally active. Malfoy's surprise at Neville's choice to pursue a professorship in herbalism at Hogwarts, despite his formidable combat skills, highlighted the diverse paths they were taking. Neville's preference for education over combat was clear. Meanwhile, their circle was busy with their respective duties and explorations, from Percy's administrative responsibilities to Heinrich's magical animal research in Germany and King's wizard census in the United States. The relocation of the Magic Congress of the United States was underway. Meanwhile, Daphne began to take over business dealings from Mr. Greenglass. Astoria, with only 1 year left until her graduation from Hogwarts, found herself needing to plan for the future. The once united Kungsing Club had started to drift apart due to their individual pursuits. Initially, Malfoy had assumed that Cedric, whom he considered another idler, would inevitably appear. However, to his surprise, Cedric was taken by Chu Zhang on a journey to the east. This left only 2 of them back at Hogwarts, looking at each other in bewilderment. "Why does it feel like we're the only ones left with free time?" Neville asked, scratching his head in confusion. He then added, "Come to think of it, I'm probably the one with the most free time here." Malfoy couldn't hide his irritation. "You think it's a joke that I'm free? Do you have any idea how much effort I've put into training? The prestige of being a trump card isn't handed out lightly. In this year's Quidditch League, Hope Mill United ranked 4th, which is a significant improvement from last year." As these personal dramas unfolded, broader changes were taking place within the wizarding world. The domestic law was undergoing gradual improvements, and John was preparing to extend his efforts internationally. He reviewed the document he had started, titled Wizard Registration Act, contemplating the implications of his next moves. Chapter 790, The Wizard Registration Act. The Wizard Registration Act was introduced, allowing registered wizards the freedom to cast spells outside the confines of the magical community. This act served both as a form of restraint and protection. Wizards possess the inherent power to cast spells, which is undeniable, John explained. While we safeguard this ability, we must also protect the non-magical family members of wizards. The nature of wizard births meant they could never fully detach from the Muggle world. Despite any desires to isolate themselves, interaction with the non-magical world was inevitable. Within the magical kingdom, spellcasting was unrestricted. However, outside its borders, wizards were required to register their wands for external use. The act exempted minor magics, such as kitchen spells, from registration, while more potent spells, like the Crushing Curse and the Explosive Curse, required approval. This policy was set to be implemented following the official establishment of the Magic Kingdom. John, pondering the future, considered opening trade channels between wizards and muggles, but quickly dismissed the idea. The wizarding world was not yet ready to integrate certain elements, like potions, into the Muggle world, which could serve as diplomatic tools through a shared system. After long hours of work, John left the Ministry of Magic to unwind. The wizarding community was thriving, evident in the popularity of Weasley's Wizard Wheezes fireworks. Many hoped to celebrate the day of relocation with fireworks, a proposal John approved to maintain public happiness. Visiting Weasley's Wizard Wheeze, John was taken aback by the sight of Fred, usually mischievous, tenderly holding his wife Angelina's hand. The sight of Angelina's pregnant belly surprised him further. Reflecting on their ages, John found the concept of marrying and starting a family at a young age foreign, yet he wished them well. Continuing his walk, John ventured into Nocturne Alley and the overturned garden, now a popular dating spot. He observed young wizards expressing their affection, including an unexpected pair, Neville and Malfoy. Overhearing Malfoy boast about his Quidditch prowess, John intervened, questioning Malfoy's absence from training. Caught off guard, Malfoy realized John's presence too late. John, with a hint of mischief, mentioned Astoria's potential Quidditch team membership and the Wizarding League's interest, leaving Malfoy uneasy with the thought of being outplayed by Astoria. Cold sweat trickled down Malfoy's temples as he envisioned the scene, his dear rival, Atuo, hoisting the championship trophy, casting a contemptuous glance his way. "No, no!" Malfoy muttered grimly, determination hardening his resolve. "I must defend my position." Why should he relax? Training was the reality he needed to embrace. Spurred by this realization, Malfoy hastened towards the club, his resolve unwavering. Neville, having observed the entire episode, remained silent, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I recall there was someone from Hopemere on the inspection team," he mentioned. "Oh, indeed," John replied with a grin, the mischief in his eyes unmistakable. "But don't you think it would be amusing to give him a bit of a scare?" Neville offered no response, his silence speaking volumes. "You've changed. You weren't like this before," he finally said. Initially, John's plan to play a prank on Malfoy was a spur-of-the-moment decision, one that had significantly lifted his spirits. However, Neville's next revelation quickly dampened his mood. "By the way, John, I'm getting married on July 7th. John's expression turned complex, a mix of emotions crossing his face before he managed a supportive gesture, patting Neville on the shoulder. "I wish you happiness," he said, his voice tinged with a hint of melancholy. Neville looked puzzled, almost as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. John had always assumed the first wedding he'd attend would be Percy's, not Neville's. It struck him how young they all were, all of school age in the Muggle world. After parting ways with Neville, John made his way to the Johnny Silver Hand store. Initially, his venture into business was driven by the desire to earn money, but it had since grown into something much larger. Today, the Johnny Silver Hand stores stood as the most profitable in the world, having nurtured numerous talents, particularly within the Silverhand Alchemy Workshop. Upon arrival, John was greeted by a werewolf security guard, smartly dressed in a suit. John paused to adjust the guard's collar, a small but meaningful gesture. "My lord," the werewolf greeted him, visibly moved. John smiled, a flood of memories in his eyes. I gave that to you, he reminisced. The werewolf's excitement was palpable. You still remember. It's my honor, he said, his voice filled with emotion. As one of the first werewolves to follow John, they had always remained loyal. The suit was more than just clothing. It symbolized a shift from their downtrodden past, a gift from their revered leader. No, it's my pleasure, John corrected him earnestly. I am honored that you chose to follow me. The werewolf was visibly moved, tears welling up in his eyes. What you have done for us, my lord, will never be forgotten by our kind, he said, gratitude evident in his voice. As John entered the store, he noticed the changes that had taken place over the years. The faces of his employees had matured, bearing the marks of time. He realized that not everyone had the luxury of a long lifespan. Approaching a clerk, John inquired about his future plans. The clerk, taken aback, replied, I will always be here, sir. John shook his head gently. You should have your own life, he advised, after you retire. It was a moment of reflection for John, a realization that it was time for him to make a difference. He wanted to ensure that wizards had the opportunity to pursue their passions, to live fulfilling lives beyond their duties. Chapter 791, Capitalist Tang Mi and Neville's Wedding. In the ever-evolving times, it's a universal truth that no one enjoys working incessantly, not even wizards, who are often perceived as having unconventional thought processes. Recognizing this, John decided it was time to give back to his employees by introducing the concept of retirement. Tang Mi, upon hearing the word retirement for the first time, was visibly shaken. He mistakenly believed John was displeased with his past actions, leading to his dismissal. My lord, I swear I'll never touch fish again, and I'll repay every penny I owe to the candy store, Tang Mi pleaded, fearing the worst. He lamented the recent purchase of a house that he hadn't yet had the chance to renovate, misunderstanding John's intentions entirely. John was baffled by Tang Mi's reaction. I'm talking about retirement, not expulsion, he clarified, curious about Tang Mi's financial decisions. Tang Mi, still confused, equated retirement to being fired, expressing his reluctance to leave a job that provided for his family. John found Tang Mi's misunderstanding peculiar. Retirement doesn't mean you're left without money or work, he explained, prompting Tang Mi to question the source of retirement funds. This led to a revelation for Tang Mi, who had never considered the possibility of receiving a salary even after leaving his position. The concept of retirement was foreign in the wizarding world, where the notion of a working age was virtually non-existent. Hogwarts staff, like the ghost of Professor Binns, served for centuries without the concept of retirement, highlighting the lack of financial security for wizards post-retirement. John lamented the harsh realities faced by wizards, who often had to rely on their own resources or the generosity of others to sustain themselves after their careers ended. The wizarding world, he observed, was a haven for capitalists, with even esteemed individuals like Ollivander struggling financially upon retirement. Tang Mi, moved by John's commitment to providing for his employees post-retirement, was overwhelmed with gratitude. This marked the second time Tang Mi felt compelled to kneel before John, the first being when his wages were garnished for 20 years. John's proposal was a beacon of hope for those at the lower echelons of the magical world. However, Tang Mi, now seeing an opportunity, suggested delaying the retirement age. He argued that wizards, known for their longevity, could contribute significantly longer than their Muggle counterparts. With many wizards living well into their second century without physical decline, retiring at 70 seemed premature. John pondered Tang Mi's suggestion, recognizing the unique circumstances of the wizarding world. The idea of extending the working age took into account the extended lifespan of wizards, ensuring that their potential was fully utilized while also respecting their right to a dignified retirement. This conversation between John and Tang Mi highlighted the need for adaptability in policies to accommodate the distinct needs of the wizarding community. Patting Tang Mi's shoulder in relief, someone remarked, "You truly are a people's entrepreneur." Tang Mi was left puzzled, wondering if he had just been insulted. His intervention had led to the postponement of the retirement age from 70 to 80 years old, and yet Tang Mi harbored ambitions to push it to 100. John, noticing Tang Mi's increasingly devilish schemes, demanded an explanation about the origins of a certain house. Tang Mi, with a hint of embarrassment, admitted, Ozzy bought it. The realization that Tang Mi hadn't spent a penny on it led to a moment of resentment when he reminded John, My lord, you seem to forget, I don't have a salary. John pondered for a moment and then, to Tang Mi's hopeful gaze, offered a discount on the decoration. Tang Mi was taken aback. He had hoped to get the decoration done for free. Regardless, John proceeded to the Ministry of Magic to draft the retirement law. As July approached, evolution of a world-destroying dragon in the wizarding world made Muggles more amicable. Penello assembled a team for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, recruiting individuals from previously vacant positions in various countries' ministries of magic. These individuals, now independent members, underwent training to become diplomats in the local magic kingdoms. Among these wizards was Old Barty, a linguist proficient in hundreds of languages. While Penelope lacked Old Barty's natural talent, her learning ability was commendable, picking up several languages while training the new diplomats. Despite the establishment of a wizarding city, John had no intention of cutting ties with Muggles. Supporting families like the Delacours and the Malfoys, who maintained contact with the outside world, was crucial. The Malfoys, with their historical connections to the British royal family, and Fleur Delacour, with her beauty, were perfect representatives. Fleur, in her efforts to not embarrass herself, diligently learned Muggle noble etiquette. Her sister, Gabrielle, however, was terrified of such formalities, preferring adventure. The son of Minister Roland, smitten with Fleur since she saved his life, visited again. Initially, Minister Roland was frustrated with his son's lovesick behavior, but eventually encouraged him to pursue Fleur, emphasizing that love required action. Gabrielle, spotting the handsome suitor, sought her sister's help. Fleur, however, had her own plans and gracefully exited via the fireplace, engulfed in blue flames. Meanwhile, the Longbottom family had a reason to celebrate. Neville Longbottom, hailed as the Lion of Longbottom and a master swordsman in the wizarding world, was at the center of the festivities. On his birthday, Neville Longbottom was graced with the presence of the love of his life. Despite Mrs. Longbottom's efforts to use the most elastic fabric available, Neville's muscular arms stretched the material of his white suit to its limits, leaving him afraid to move for fear of tearing it. Consequently, he stood as still as a statue. When Fleur caught sight of Neville, she couldn't resist reaching out to poke his stone-like muscles, causing Neville to quickly retract his hand, worried his suit might burst at any moment. The wedding was attended by many, including representatives from the 28 ancient wizarding families. Draco Malfoy, with his distinctive platinum hair slicked back and an air of arrogance, greeted each guest with a disdain that made them feel utterly insignificant. As the best man, Malfoy had a peculiar talent for making the guests clench their fists in frustration. Cedric, having lost some weight during his travels to the east, returned to share tales of his adventures, including the discovery of a massive bronze door. Percy, ever the busybody, made time to attend as well. Heinrich and Jin arrived together, donned in gold and black capes, though Heinrich was noticeably shorter than Jin. Upon seeing Astoria, Malfoy immediately excused himself from the other guests to welcome her, promising a grander celebration after her graduation. Neville, overhearing Malfoy's bold declaration, began to question his decision to appoint him as the best man. Fleur, noticing Astoria's solo arrival, inquired about Daphne's whereabouts. Astoria, with a playful smile and a twinkle in her eye, hinted at Daphne having another engagement. Meanwhile, John, dressed in a luxurious black wizard robe adorned with dark gold decorations and emerald gemstones, waited at the entrance for someone. After a few moments, he sensed her presence. Turning around, he saw Daphne in a stunning green backless dress that accentuated her figure beautifully. Her fair skin, long golden hair, and glass-like blue eyes reflected John's figure as she approached him with a smile. Extending his hand, John greeted her with a chuckle. "It's time for us to go in." Chapter 792, The City of Wizards. At the wedding, the entrance of Black and Green made a striking pair. Furong couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. After such a long time, it seemed the girl had finally learned to take the initiative. However, Daphne found herself seated next to Fleur, casting resentful glances at John, who was at the center of attention, surrounded and lavished with praise by others. Clutching her wand tightly, she glared at Malfoy, the very person who had foolishly shouted John and drawn unwanted attention. Malfoy, fully aware of the precarious situation, dared not even glance in Daphne's direction, let alone pass by his dear Astoria. I can't give her any reason to hex me, he thought, knowing full well that as long as he behaved, Daphne would have no cause for action. Yet, despite his caution, he found himself embarrassingly hung on the gate of the wedding venue for the trivial reason of stepping forward with his left foot first. John's arrival had indeed stirred the crowd. The Ancient Alliance saw this gathering as an opportunity for the younger generation to forge connections. Thus, most attendees were young people, many of whom were John's classmates. Panksy, for instance, was seen holding Theodore's hand, her face alight with joy. Goyle and Crabbe, remembering the wisdom passed down by their grandfather, that in the realm of kings there is a choice but no place for a Malfoy, adhered to their family's survival strategy of aligning with the powerful. Throughout the wedding, Mrs. Longbottom's voice boomed, filled with pride for her grandson. For the occasion, she had swapped her usual green attire for a striking red dress, which she believed looked quite fetching on her. The wedding was lively, to say the least. Amidst the ancient blessings and the loud sobs that filled the air, John glanced sideways to find Hagrid, tears streaming down his face, with his younger brother, Grop, by his side. Grop, once a misfit, was gradually finding his place in the wizarding world, though he couldn't fathom why Hagrid was crying. Neville, taking Hannah Abbott's hand from Mr. Abbott, led her down the red carpet. Dressed in her white wedding gown, Hannah's confidence seemed to blossom. The officiant, the same who had presided over Fred's wedding, began the ceremony. Neville Longbottom, you are to marry Hannah Abbott, and you shall never part from her, through sickness and in health, he declared. Neville's response was loud and clear, bringing a blush to Hannah's cheeks. After exchanging vows, Neville slipped the custom-made ring onto Hannah's finger and sealed their union with a passionate kiss, much to the delight and tearful joy of Mrs. Longbottom, who proclaimed her grandson's growing handsomeness. The wedding was a success, marred only by Malfoy's unfortunate incident. Neville, now married, wore a happy smile, though it briefly faltered due to an unexpected wardrobe malfunction. Reflecting on the experience, marrying someone of his own age felt distinctly different to Neville compared to Fred's wedding. Daphne, lingering until the crowd had dispersed, encountered John, who had also stayed back to avoid the throng. As they met, Daphne playfully adjusted her hair, a flirtatious gesture not lost on John. The wind danced with the petals left behind by the wedding, setting a romantic scene. John, Daphne initiated, her boldness surprising even herself. Do you want to go back together? John considered her proposal for a moment before agreeing. That's just right. I have a few places to go. This unexpected boldness from Daphne made Fu Rong, watching from the shadows, clench her fists in approval. With women like Daphne taking the initiative, there was no cause for concern about their grand endeavors. Astoria, hidden nearby, could only watch in silence. Fleur clenched her fists, her eyes shining with pride as her sister took a brave step forward. Upon hearing John's promise, Daphne's smile widened. She walked briskly to John's side, extended her hand, and gathering all her courage, grasped a orner of his clothes. This momentous act was a breakthrough for both women, making them want to celebrate with a high five. In a shadowed corner, Mr. Greengrass wore a complex expression, while Mrs. Greengrass beside him was rendered speechless. Despite claiming he couldn't bear to watch, Mr. Greengrass had secretly followed after the wedding, hiding in the bushes to observe. John, feeling the gentle tug on his clothes, smiled softly and extended his hand further, as if inviting Daphne to a ballroom dance. He chuckled, "You better hold my hand." Daphne hesitated for a moment before placing her slender fingers in his. The warmth of their touch made her cheeks flush with heat. Fleur and Astoria watched in anticipation, thinking John had finally understood the nuances of human connection. However, John's next words, "Then apparat and hold on," quickly dispelled their illusions. The gesture was not one of acceptance, but a practical move for apparition. Mr. Greengrass, who had been about to intervene, turned away, his suspicions confirmed. The sound of whistling filled Daphne's ears as she was transported to another location through disapparation. When she opened her eyes, she found herself standing atop a tall tower in a city under construction. The white buildings were adorned with golden lines that shifted continuously. Wizards were busy constructing new structures, and in the center stood a white sphere and a black square, recognizable as the alchemy and potion departments. "Is this the place?" Daphne asked, taking in the bustling scene of wizards creating a city. John smiled. "This is the future home for all wizards." He pointed to a massive magic crystal floating on the horizon, explaining that the city was divided into 9 areas, each corresponding to a different gathering place. Curious, Daphne inquired about how these places were brought here. John's answer was simple, yet mysterious. Magic. They disappeared once more, reappearing on a giant magic crystal surrounded by the sea. Below them, the land was being absorbed by the crystal, forming a stable platform. John observed the crystal, noting the completion of the markings. These markings were essential for relocating wizarding communities hidden around the world into the crystal. Once inside, John could use a space channel to transport them directly to the wizard city. Pointing to a red dot inside the crystal, John said, "Look, that's Weasley's Wizard Wheezes." He then showed Daphne another location, the Blind Pig Bar, introducing her to places she had never seen before. His enthusiasm gradually enveloped Daphne, drawing her into the vast and intricate world he was creating. Daphne calmed the tumultuous thoughts swirling in her heart. She glanced sideways at John, whose profile was alight with enthusiasm. In his eyes, she saw the entirety of the magical world, just as her father had described. Being with someone so deeply immersed in the magical realm could be challenging. The question arose in her mind, was she prepared to give up? Reflecting on their shared moments, the image of John became increasingly vivid in Daphne's mind. "No, I won't give up," she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible yet imbued with determination. "Huh?" John, puzzled, turned to look at her, his brow furrowed. "Give up what?" "No, no!" Daphne hadn't anticipated her quiet musings to be overheard. Flustered, she blurted out, "I meant I won't give up on Draco." John was taken aback. It seemed Draco managed to be a topic of disdain even in his absence. Their task of confirming the markings in various locations was complete. Standing atop a massive magic crystal, John let out a sigh. "From this point forward, we enter the realm of wizards," he declared, envisioning a sanctuary where wizards could thrive in freedom. Chapter 793. Aunt Bathilda. Just after Mr. Greengrass had given up all hope for John, Daphne's dazed expression upon returning home reignited his concerns. He subtly signaled Astoria, who, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, seized the opportunity to probe for any new developments from her sister. Maintaining close ties with Fleur, both girls were instrumental in supporting Daphne. That evening, Astoria entered Daphne's room, clutching a pillow, under the guise of fostering sisterly bonding. Of course, her intentions were purely innocent, or so she claimed. Daphne lay sprawled across her bed, her delicate feet peeking out from under the quilt. "Sister, where did you go today?" Astoria inquired, skillfully masking her eagerness for gossip with genuine concern. Daphne turned to face the ceiling and sighed deeply. "When do you think John will be able to let go?" "Let go? Let go of what?" Astoria asked, puzzled. Reflecting on John's dedication to the magical world, Daphne pulled the quilt over her head and muttered, "Let go of these responsibilities. He seems so burdened." Astoria, adopting a more serious tone, tried to comfort her sister. Daphne's melancholy stemmed from her own perceived selfishness compared to John's selflessness, which she felt was almost sacrilegious to question. This realization only added weight to her heart, as she felt an ever-growing distance between herself and John. The man she once aspired to stand beside now seemed unreachable, his figure lost among those who followed him like a king. As Daphne drifted off to sleep, Astoria pondered their conversation. She could relate to her sister's feelings, having once felt similarly distant from the dazzling allure of a group she admired but couldn't approach. "Sister, you must be exhausted too," she whispered, gently stroking Daphne's cheek and gazing at the familiar face. Astoria, always Daphne's staunch supporter, now found herself questioning her role. Mr. Greengrass's words echoed in her mind. being with John would be demanding. As the king's consort and the mother of all wizards, Daphne's challenges were monumental, her life irrevocably altered by John Wick. Slytherins, known for their self-preservation, struggled with the concept of selflessness, especially when it meant extending their care beyond those they loved. Meanwhile, in Godric's Hollow, Bathilda Bagshot wandered her home, pausing to inspect the broken skylight. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts, a rare occurrence that reminded her of a busy summer in 1889 when she welcomed two curious children into her home. Those memories, long buried, occasionally resurfaced, leaving her feeling as if someone or something was missing. The attic, untouched for years, lay shrouded in dust. Bathilda opened the door after a brief hesitation, greeted by the familiar polite smile of John. "Miss Bathilda, I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said, his presence bringing a sense of comfort to the elderly writer. Bathilda, with a lifetime of stories behind her, smiled back. Despite the dullness that often accompanies age, she found solace in the absence of sorrow. "Don't put a blanket over me this time," she joked, a lightness in her voice that spoke of a deep, unspoken understanding between them. John bowed slightly and offered a light smile. "Then, Miss Bathilda, let's prepare to leave." He took out an old wand, a symbol of power, and gently tapped the door of Bathilda's house. The house, which was not particularly small, had lines that intersected horizontally and vertically. These grids and lines intertwined, causing the house to shrink rapidly until it was the size of a Rubik's Cube. John picked it up and placed it in Bathilda's hands. "It's really small," Bathilda observed, looking at the miniature house. After completing this task, John turned his attention elsewhere. The man with mismatched eyes, Grindelwald, sat peacefully in a home that wasn't his own. Upon John's arrival, Grindelwald understood that his punishment was imminent. "Didn't take the opportunity to leave?" John N. Oted, seeing Grindelwald comfortably settled in the house, a flicker of inexplicable emotion in his eyes. "I don't think I can live up to the opportunity Al gave me," Grindelwald replied. "You think so too, Joel." John remained noncommittal. He had thought that if Grindelwald had escaped, he could have justifiably allowed the man to meet his end once more. However, Grindelwald was no longer a martyr, his life made exceedingly precious by Dumbledore's sacrifice. "I think you're ready," John stated flatly, addressing Grindelwald. "Equivalent exchange, the punishment you must endure." "Yes, I'm ready," Grindelwald responded, walking out of the room slowly. His gaze landed on his aunt, who only remembered him, and he smiled. "Long time no see, Aunt Bathilda." "Gellert, my God, you've aged," Bathilda exclaimed, "yet you're younger than Albus." Grindelwald smiled. If Bathilda could see Dumbledore now, she wouldn't feel such surprise. "I have prepared a place for you," John said calmly. "Come with me to escort Miss Bathilda to the City of Wizards." "Yes, my lord," Grindelwald replied with a charming smile. Was he insane? Perhaps. When he longed for death yet couldn't achieve it, when he believed he was destined to be forever alone, his punishment continuously left its marks on him. Facing his impending punishment, whether it be eternal confinement or eternal torture, Grindelwald was prepared to accept it. As he had said, he was content with the Witch King's curse. A thestral carriage descended from the sky. The three of them boarded the carriage, which ascended under the flapping wings of the thestrals. Meanwhile, in the sky, thestral carriages flew towards a specific destination. These were the first passengers being specially transported to the Wizarding City. Inside the closed King's Cross station, a group of shamans and scholars, escorted by special personnel and with minds brimming with knowledge, slowly made their way to platform 9 3/4. A train bound for the Wizarding City awaited them. As the last passenger boarded, an obelisk materialized in front of the departing train. A channel, glowing with a mix of blue and purple energy, opened ahead, and the train darted through it. They raced across the sea, accompanied by the ethereal sounds of nearby whales. Gradually, the train entered the City of Wizards. Chapter 794, The Magnificent City, nearing completion, welcomed its first batch of wizards. With John by her side, Bathilda set down the small house. Utilizing the reverse of shrinking magic, the house quickly expanded to its original size. Thus, the house from Godric's Hollow was reborn in the Wizarding City, a place chosen by John for Bathilda due to its similar ecology to Godric's Hollow. "You're leaving, aren't you?" Bathilda asked. her gaze lingering on the two young faces before her. "I'll see you again, Lady Bathilda," John assured her with a nod. Bathilda's attention then shifted to Grindelwald. She reached out, gently touching his face, and said, "You can come to your great-aunt's house anytime, Gellert." Grindelwald hesitated, the small house being the only place he could truly call home, a repository of his life's memories. "I may come anytime," he responded, his smile betraying the insincerity of his words. Bathilda smiled, bidding farewell to the two. Despite their power, they were still children at heart, especially those from Godric's Hollow. Grindelwald, meanwhile, faced his own form of punishment, a place more imposing than Nurmengard, a solitary tower meant to be his forever prison. "Is this the punishment you've chosen for me, my king?" Grindelwald asked with a smile, recognizing the familiar setting of the tall tower. "You are mistaken," John corrected, looking up at the tower. "Your true prison lies below." As they descended, John revealed the true nature of Grindelwald's punishment, a mirror world beneath the tower, a solitary reflection where no second soul could enter. This mirrored realm, identical to the tower above, served as an exile, a place of eternal silence and loneliness, accessible only to the Witch King. "You, like Dumbledore, are exiled by magic," John declared, emphasizing the gravity of Grindelwald's sentence. In this shadowy exile, Grindelwald faced a lifetime of solitude, unreachable by any, including the Phoenix. Before leaving, John asked, "Do you regret it, Grindelwald?" "No, my king," Grindelwald replied, his devotion unwavering even in the face of eternal isolation. With a final sinister smile, he bid farewell to John. "May you burn forever like the sun, great and glorious Witch King." As John departed, Grindelwald ascended the steps of the Shadow Tower, contemplating the legend of the three brothers and the fate of rulers to remain alone until overthrown. Meanwhile, the migration to the Wizarding City began in earnest. The first wizards had settled, marking the start of a significant movement. Under various promotions, the Great Migration saw wizards from all corners entering the city, each eager to be part of this new chapter in the wizarding world. Many families within the Ancient Alliance are now aware of the full scope of the Wizarding City. Discussions are underway about where to establish their bases. The Malfoy family, being among the wealthiest, faces no such dilemma, as they plan to maintain a manor in both the Muggle and Wizarding worlds. Lucius Malfoy has recently started to interact with Muggles, finding that a mere display of magic is enough to draw their attention. After his marriage, Neville Longbottom sent another letter to Hogwarts. As a celebrated hero of the wizarding world, he received a warm welcome from the school. He is to be interviewed by Professor Sprout for the position of the new herbology professor. Assuming all goes well, he will become the youngest professor at Hogwarts, a distinction he will share with Astoria, who remains a student. This peculiar situation amuses them, given that they are both members of the same Star Club. Draco Malfoy, upon hearing the news, jokingly suggested that Neville award Slytherin 1,000 points, a proposal that was promptly rejected, as not even Severus Snape had indulged in such favoritism. At Silverhand Amusement Park, a favorite vacation spot for wizards since its inception, a group of wizards conducted a thorough check to ensure no one else was present. "The inspection is complete, and everyone has been confirmed to evacuate," one wizard announced. "The obelisk is being connected," another added. Soon after, the obelisk is successfully connected and the migration begins. 3 towering obelisks rose from the amusement park's grounds, emitting a unique rhythm. Blue and purple lights shot out from their tips, converging in the sky above the park. The energy they gathered spread out, enveloping the entire amusement park in a vast dome. The staff of Silverhand watched anxiously, hoping the operation would proceed without incident. When the dome finally collapsed, the amusement park vanished, leaving behind only the bare ground. This event marked the successful execution of the largest teleportation magic in history. Bill Weasley was awestruck. "This is the largest teleportation magic in history," he observed. The Magic Association, using the obelisks as a foundation, had achieved a monumental feat. This historic moment signified the beginning of a new era for wizards, enabling their forces to appear anywhere in the world. The principle behind the movement of the ghost ship was similar. With the obelisks crossing any ocean became a trivial matter, far beyond the capabilities of any Muggle fleet. We have to move on to the next location, an elderly member of the Magic Association declared, eager to witness the new era the king had envisioned. The magic train, dormant for years, began to move on its own, much to the relief of the Witch King, who had been supporting it from behind. For him, and for all old wizards, there was no greater excitement than witnessing the dawn of a new chapter in magical history. Cecilia, once a member of the Researchers Association, felt profoundly grateful for his decision to embrace change. Had he remained obstinate and self-centered, they would now be facing a devastated magical world. Praise the Witch King. Make magic great again, he thought, reflecting on the transformative power of their endeavors. Chapter 795, A Busy Day for the Witch King. After Neville's wedding, the arrival of August marked a busy period for John, the Witch King. One morning, as he was engrossed in his work, the sound of knocking on the glass drew his attention. Looking up, he noticed Riddle, the black owl, waiting outside quietly. John opened the window to let Riddle in with a report from the alchemy department. After casually closing the window, he returned to his seat and affectionately stroked Riddle's head. Suddenly, the sound of glass breaking startled them both. They turned their heads in unison to see a white, snowy owl forcefully entering through the window, delivering a letter from the potions department. The owl then leaned its head towards John, seeking affection. "Perhaps you could find a gentler way to enter," John remarked, snapping his fingers to magically repair the broken glass. Tom, a dog who had been joyfully running around, noticed he was being left out and hurried over to place his head at John's feet, causing a bit of chaos. "Okay, come back later," John said, feeling slightly overwhelmed. Basil, the snowy owl, was enjoying the attention until it was interrupted by Tom. Annoyed, Basil stretched out its claws and grabbed Tom's ear, preventing him from leaving. Tom looked aggrieved as the three animals began to squabble. John picked up the two letters and reviewed them. The first letter detailed how the Ministry of Potions had successfully prepared enough vaccines, and hospitals worldwide had begun vaccinating werewolves. However, the process was not without its issues. According to the letter from Alex Dharma of the Potions Department, there were complications with the vaccination process. Some individuals, surprisingly, not werewolves, but a wizard from the United States, proposed retaining the ability of werewolves to spread their curse. The rationale, though bizarre, raised a point worth considering. We need to preserve some werewolf curses so that those who wish to become werewolves can do so, the wizard had argued. The notion of voluntarily becoming a werewolf, once dismissed as ludicrous, now seemed to merit discussion. Werewolves had their communities and schools and received care from the Witch King, making the prospect appealing to some. This development led John to acknowledge the advanced perspective of the American wizard. Wait, a werewolf's life is still a life. It seems I've said this, John mused, stroking his chin. He realized that his actions, influenced by personal motives, could significantly impact the magical world's social fabric. Setting aside the letter from the Potions Department, John then focused on the report from the Alchemy Department. Thankfully, their issues were minor, involving melted crucibles and tweezers due to material problems. The report also highlighted progress in researching obelisk technology, specifically space shuttle construction. Space shuttle, John pondered thoughtfully, intrigued by the potential of obelisk technology to advance magical transportation. A global mobile channel that facilitates barrier-free transitions from one coordinate to another by opening a transferable channel in an infinitesimally small area was originally intended for world travel. However, after John acquired the technology from another world, he adapted it for regional jumps within the same world. The primary drawback of this technology is the conspicuousness of the obelisk, which, unlike more inconspicuous objects like old shoes or newspapers, does not lend itself well to stealth. Despite this, it proves immensely useful, akin to a train track. As far as magic power technology is concerned, this is indeed a milestone invention, John mused, reflecting on the report brought by Riddle. The report was extensive, covering not only the obelisk, but also various insights gleaned from the magical world. John, with a quill in hand, meticulously corrected flaws and potential mishaps related to magic power products on the parchment. This task consumed nearly an hour of his time. During this, Tangmi entered the room to report the day's schedule. Without looking up, John continued to jot down his revisions while listening to Tangmi outline a packed itinerary, including attending the completion ceremony of the Silver Wolf Magic School, visiting the alchemy department, discussing relocation with the Vampire Council, and several other engagements over the following days. After dismissing Tangmi, who attempted to invite him to the Silver Wolf Roaring Club's opening, John resumed his work. This was just a glimpse into John's hectic schedule, which was about to become even more daunting with the start of the school year. His commitments included guest appearances at Hogwarts for the first school league, lecturing at Beauxbatons as a special professor of alchemy, and engagements at other schools like Durmstrang and Ilvermorny. From September onwards, his calendar was devoid of any breaks. Once he finished writing his opinions, John took a moment to stretch and relax. His owls, Basil and Riddle, landed on his shoulders, providing a gentle massage with their claws while their feathers tickled his earlobes. John smiled, appreciating their company. He then fed Tom, his pet, a large piece of beef, recognizing that regular dog food no longer satisfied the animal's sharp teeth. The owls also joined in, feasting on small dried fish. As time passed, John's busy day officially commenced, starting with a visit to the werewolf community. The Silver Wolf Magic School was set to officially open its doors to students on September 1st, with arrangements already in place for the allocation of teachers and other logistics. Chudai and John stood before the grand, retro-styled magic school, their images quickly captured and spread by the newspaper. They were there to inspect the facilities, with particular attention to the more challenging aspects, such as the hidden areas and the Quidditch pitch, essential features for any magic school. Fortunately, the Silver Wolf Magic School faced no issues in this regard, having been established within the werewolf community. It was planned that in the future, the school would relocate to the Wizarding City, becoming the second institution after the University of Magic to be situated there. John felt a peculiar sense of embarrassment upon seeing a statue of John Wick adorning a fountain. The statue, inspired by the Johnny Silverhand character, depicted John in elaborate attire, complete with a silver mask. If Gilderoy were to have a statue here, he'd be overjoyed, John remarked, reflecting on the matter. He then remembered that Lockhart's book was due to be released soon, pondering whether it would be before or after their migration, likely around September 9th. Following their visit, John proceeded to the alchemy department, where he was warmly received and shown various new inventions. Among these were a flying car and a rice cooker that, despite claims of functionality, exploded upon use, nearly causing a disaster in the department. Despite these mishaps, John found many of the innovations, which bore similarities to Muggle inventions, yet were distinctly magical, to be quite impressive. Later that evening, John visited a family of vampires, including Xueni, a vampire he had met on several occasions. Xueni expressed a desire for vampires to have the opportunity to lift their curse, similar to werewolves, and offered some vampires as test subjects for this purpose. Xueni, a vampire of considerable standing equivalent to that of an earl, had lived long enough to become desensitized to the world around him. His willingness to explore such possibilities spoke volumes of the changing times within the wizarding world, where even vampires sought a new beginning. Chapter 796, The Plight of Vampires. Vampires, as a long-lived species, possess an extensive lifespan that often leads to a sense of numbness towards existence. Many of them were once wizards who have now grown indifferent to the monotony of their immortal lives. The vampires outside our community are particularly unstable, Xueni remarked solemnly. Their desperation for blood frequently leads to their discovery and subsequent elimination by Muggles. We do not share their lineage. Our origins may be different, but the thirst for blood unites us all. Muggle-born vampires are even more voracious in their bloodlust, establishing formidable forces over time. In contrast, wizard-born vampires tend to isolate themselves, forming families in name only, sometimes going decades without seeing one another. This solitary existence, coupled with the inability to enjoy sunlight or consume anything but blood, numbs us to life. Xueni explained. He continued, revealing a grim reality. Every few years, some of us choose to end our suffering by walking into the sunlight, embracing death over a hopeless future. That's profoundly sad, John responded. Is your wish to join the Wizarding City driven by a hope to find a cure for this curse? Exactly. If not a cure, then at least a way to mitigate our bloodlust, Xuanyi said, his expression softening as he reminisced about the flavors of food he could no longer enjoy. Vampires can't consume anything but blood. The memories of sweet apples and tender steaks are now just that, memories. Becoming a vampire might seem like a path to eternal life, but it's a choice few willingly make. The curse of longevity comes at the cost of living a normal life, reduced to a creature of the night, forever alienated by society. Hearing about the werewolves' success in suppressing their curse, the vampires yearned for a similar salvation. I will discuss this with Dharma Alex and the Vampire Council, John assured. It would help if you could provide blood samples from the vampires outside our community. Xuanyi, puzzled, asked, Why? Those vampires are nothing but a blend of greed and cruelty. I need to understand if the nature of the vampire curse varies among us, John explained, noticing Xuanyi's lack of concern for his kind. It seems you don't consider them your kin. Those outsiders bring us nothing but trouble, Xuanyi replied with disdain. Their actions have led to unwarranted attacks on us in the Muggle world. I once narrowly escaped decapitation by a Muggle. This sentiment was common among Wizarding World vampires, who viewed their counterparts as nothing but troublemakers. Despite their own struggles, they preferred the solitude of their existence over the chaos brought by the others. John pondered the situation, realizing that even Muggles had developed methods to combat vampires. It's clear that we should never underestimate Muggles, he thought, considering the danger even a vampire of Xuanyi's stature faced outside their community. As John prepared to continue his journey, the International Federation of Wizards convened to discuss the future of wizardry, focusing on the development of magic technology. Potions and alchemy will be our primary focus for the next decade, John stated, emphasizing the importance of nurturing magic education to maintain the standards of each magic school. Magic, much like mathematics, requires both talent and enlightenment to truly excel. In a world where magical talent varies greatly, the Weasley twins may not excel in traditional magic, but shine in business and innovation. The educational system in the wizarding world produces a wide range of talents, from the likes of Dumbledore to those who struggle with basic spells like Goyle and Crabbe, who have yet to master apparition. This disparity has led some to reconsider their approach to training the next generation. John's goal is to ensure that every wizarding graduate possesses the skills necessary for survival, aiming to establish a baseline of competence among wizards. At the end of a meeting, John hands a ticket to Tang Mi, who was initially planning to attend the Weasley fireworks show with Ozzy Hurd. The ticket, intended for John's father, now hospitalized, invites Tang Mi to the Future Wizards exhibition, showcasing the future of magical technology. Intrigued, Tang Mi decides to forgo the fireworks show. The exhibition, held at the alchemy department, attracts a diverse crowd, including the Weasley twins. Inside, the environment is starkly different, with white spheres and a Mobius strip design. Exhibits range from a magically powered speed car to a light bulb that lasts 300 years, and even a magical water heater deemed safe by wizards. Among the various magical innovations, a peculiar wand catches John's eye. Resembling a gun, this wand, created by an enthusiastic alchemist, is designed to produce a powerful burst of magic through the collision of magic crystals. Demonstrating its power, the alchemist fires the wand, sending Old Goyle flying with a shockwave faster than a bullet. The alchemist explains that by altering the wand's core, the nature of its power can be changed. John, intrigued by the potential of this new wand, invites the alchemist to the City of Wizards, recognizing the value of such innovation. Despite its limitations, being a single-use device and a form of basic elemental magic, the alchemist's creation represents a step forward in magical technology, hinting at the possibilities that lie ahead for the wizarding world. John observed the wand before him, a seemingly ordinary object that could release specific spells, such as the sleeping curse. To many, this wand might appear unremarkable, especially when compared to others that boasted more exotic capabilities. However, John perceived its true potential. To him, it resembled the magical world's equivalent of a gun. By adding a magic crystal interface to increase its power reserve and providing interchangeable wand core attributes, it could rival the effectiveness of a wizard's spellcasting. His thoughts quickly turned to those who would benefit most from such an invention, the squibs. Squibs, born into wizarding families, yet unable to perform magic, often faced scorn and were considered a disgrace. By equipping them with this specialized wand, they could transcend their limitations. John envisioned transforming squibs into a formidable law enforcement force. Their inherent qualities and potential for longevity, combined with the capabilities of this special wand, made them ideal candidates. First, we need to compile a list of squibs, John mused. He was aware that, in an effort to avoid embarrassment, many families had erased squibs from their family trees. By empowering squibs with the ability to wield magic through this device, John saw an opportunity to earn their loyalty. Freed from the constraints of their families, they could form a unique force under the direct command of the Witch King. John's plan was taking shape, promising to change the fate of the squibs and potentially alter the dynamics of power within the magical world. Chapter 797, The Flying Magic Carpet Sells Big. At the Future Wizard exhibition, two inventions stood out and captured everyone's attention. The first was a flying car, which Fred, nudging Ginny, who had just walked over, confidently attributed to their father's influence. Indeed, the creator of the flying car was a former colleague of Mr. Weasley and had drawn a great deal of inspiration from him. The second invention that caught George's interest was the flying magic carpet. Ginny, puzzled, remarked, "Isn't this thing very common?" The UK had previously refused to import flying magic carpets due to their ostentatious nature. However, an Indian wizard had transformed the traditional flying magic carpet by making it softer, more comfortable, and, most notably, incorporating the hair of an invisible beast into its design. This ingenious addition rendered the carpet invisible from below once airborne, offering a level of concealment superior to that of brooms, and even allowing it to serve as a temporary invisibility cloak. This innovation turned the flying magic carpet into the highlight of the evening, much to the chagrin of some alchemists who found the modifications simplistic and lacking in technical sophistication. However, this simplicity conveyed an important lesson to all alchemists. Not all advancements need to be technically complex. What truly matters is meeting the needs of the wizarding community. While flying cars were indeed impressive, the practicality and novelty of flying magic carpets, with their added feature of concealment and the possibility of enjoying sky-high family picnics, made them the clear winner of the night. Merchants with a keen business sense were eager to secure the rights to sell these flying magic carpets, and the Indian alchemist behind the invention was overjoyed with the reception. The Weasley twins, however, were less impressed by the flying cars, given their familiarity with their father's ability to create such gadgets. Their interest was piqued when John, overhearing their conversation, approached them. George, in his usual exaggerated manner, hailed John as the Witch King, while Fred lavished him with praise. John, amused by their antics, acknowledged their quick wit and engaged in a bit of banter. Turning to Ginny, he congratulated her on her graduation, which made her visibly nervous due to the stark difference in their statuses. George's teasing helped Ginny overcome her nervousness, and she expressed her gratitude to John, whether for his contributions to the world or to the Weasley family. John, in a gesture of goodwill, offered information as a graduation gift to Ginny. He explained that although the flying car might not be as discreet as the flying magic carpet, its ability to blend in with Muggle vehicles made it invaluable. This adaptability would facilitate easier interactions and dealings between the wizarding and Muggle worlds, underscoring the importance of innovation that bridges the gap between the two communities. John revealed to them an exciting prospect. In the future, these flying cars will become the primary mode of transportation for international missions of the Magic Kingdom. The clever trio immediately recognized the business opportunity. Securing the flying cars would position them as the preferred transportation method for wizards venturing outside the Magic Kingdom. This revelation promised a substantial profit. The Weasley twins, Co-owners of Weasley's Wizarding Wheezes saw dollar signs in their eyes and quickly shifted their focus from the flying magic carpet to the flying car. Ginny, however, was hesitant. Isn't this gift too generous? She knew from her brief time helping in the store just how profitable it could be. John's decision to share this lucrative opportunity with the Weasleys, essentially for free, made Ginny feel uneasy. Being a king and acting selflessly is no easy feat, John remarked, his eyebrows raised. This project requires significant financial investment to realize. He believed the Weasleys were the only ones capable of meeting the Magic Kingdom's standards, given the substantial investment required. Not many families, even in the Ancient Alliance, could undertake such a venture. The Weasleys were an excellent choice. John waved goodbye to Ginny, adding, "It's only natural to look out for your friends." He aimed to foster technological advancement, and choosing someone trustworthy and close was a strategic move to avoid complaints. Ginny pondered John's words thoughtfully. To boost the motivation for research and development in magic power technology, John proposed a simple solution. Let the researchers focus on their passion without financial worries. Commercial applications of their inventions would require merchants to pay a fee to the developers, ensuring a continuous stream of income for the alchemists. This financial security would spur them to innovate, creating inventions that would allow them to dedicate themselves to research without financial concerns. This principle applied to the potions department as well. New potions could bring in significant revenue. John understood the criticism of linking scientific motivation to monetary gain. However, he questioned whether a lifetime of research, culminating in a modest lifestyle, truly reflected the nobility of selfless dedication or improved efficiency. His policies for the research departments not only enhanced motivation and efficiency, but also attracted more students to these fields. The Future Wizard Show highlighted 3 success stories: the inventor of a special magic wand, the creators of the flying car, and the flying magic carpet. These inventors no longer had to worry about finances and could concentrate on their research. Dharma Alex, having received a vampire's blood sample after 3 sleepless nights, was thrilled at the prospect of being honored in the Wizarding City's Magic Tower. This ambition-driven Slytherin, along with a rejuvenated group of potion masters, eagerly embarked on new research projects. However, an unwritten rule emerged among potion masters to be wary of Dharma Alex. His reputation had soured within the community, but that did not deter him. For Alex, the pursuit of honor justified his actions, even if it meant betraying friends and teachers. Slughorn, enjoying his peaceful vacation, shivered inexplicably, sensing something amiss. For some inexplicable reason, there was a chill in the air. Nonetheless, this year was destined to be one of boundless glory for me. The inter-school tournament was about to commence, and Hogwarts was poised to welcome the arrival of other magical institutions. Moreover, John had agreed to attend as a guest, adding to the excitement. With a confident gesture, Tianhu raised his hands, and the flying dragon soared beneath him. The question that lingered in his mind was, how could we possibly lose this one? Chapter 798, Obelisk Traversal Technique. As half of August passed, the anticipation for the start of the school year grew, bringing a tinge of sadness for Malfoy. During this time, a mid-level wizarding league was held at the stadium, attracting a considerable crowd. Unlike the top wizarding league, this event didn't see the monopoly of merchandise sales by Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. Instead, other vendors sold the team jerseys. Lucius Malfoy, holding stakes in 3 clubs, found this year's competitions across various countries to be a lucrative venture. His substantial financial backing enabled merchants to sell Quidditch Club merchandise, significantly boosting the Malfoy family's wealth. The Ancient Alliance, known for its clear division of labor, ensured that each family focused on its own sector without encroaching on others' businesses. This mutual understanding led to the doubling of the Ancient Fund. When Lucius approached John, it was the surplus in the Ancient Fund that puzzled him. The dividends alone provided a considerable income for each family, but merely hoarding this wealth seemed unwise. John's casual suggestion to convert galleons into British pounds and invest in Muggle industries took Lucius by surprise. John envisioned the Malfoy family establishing a presence in the Muggle world, leveraging foreign exchange as a vital national reserve. By introducing a large influx of galleons into the Muggle economy, John aimed to prepare a foundation for future endeavors. He believed England, with its government's understanding of the wizarding world, to be an ideal investment location. John's ambition was to make galleons an international currency essential for trade within the wizarding world and beyond. Lucius, overwhelmed by the proposal, wondered about the extent of the investment required. The trust in John's vision was evident, with the only concern being the investment amount. Lucius was even prepared to use his personal funds if necessary, confident in the value of the Malfoy family's antiques for currency exchange. However, John advised against excessive investment to avoid arousing Muggle suspicion. He emphasized a gradual approach to gaining control over Muggle industries, a strategy he shared with other families, including the Delacour family in France, who were also considering introducing wizard currency. After discussing the investment strategy with Lucius, John turned his attention to the alchemy department's experiments with obelisk traversal techniques on large structures worldwide. The promising results indicated that the rest of the plan could proceed. The production of obelisks, a task solely within the capabilities of the alchemy department and John himself, was a significant undertaking. To expedite the process, John personally guided the department, ensuring the production was on track. The obelisk traversal technology, despite its name, did not require the structure to be an obelisk. Similar to a portal, this technology, the technique discovered on the obelisk and thus named the obelisk crossing technique, has the potential to alter every aspect of a wizard's being. John observed two palm-sized black rectangles positioned 100 meters apart, each held by an alchemist. The alchemist on the left placed a stone on one of the blocks. Through his manipulation, the stone gradually lightened, a process that took 3 minutes before it vanished into thin air. The alchemist on the right watched expectantly, but the stone failed to reappear, leading to visible disappointment among the onlookers. John reached out, summoning the black rectangle from the right-hand alchemist into his grasp. As his fingers glided over its smooth surface, he remarked, "This technique was neither a complete success nor a failure." With everyone's attention on him, he revealed the previously disappeared stone pinched between his fingers. "The issue lies in the execution process," he explained, slapping the black rectangle between his hands. Magic circles enveloped it, transforming its appearance. After placing the stone back on the block, John addressed the alchemists. An error in spatial coordinates led to incorrect transmission information, trapping the items in limbo. With bated breath, the alchemists watched as the stone gradually faded from view. To their astonishment, it began to materialize on the other black cuboid. Cheers of "success" erupted from the group, marking their first triumph after countless failures. They regarded John with admiration. His intervention had saved months of their hard work. As the preeminent alchemist of his time, John's expertise was invaluable. Handing the device back to the alchemists for further analysis, John contemplated the future of obelisk travel technology. While it promised convenience, it also necessitated caution. In the wrong hands, such technology could enable crimes that would leave even the Aurors clueless. Determined, John resolved to classify these advancements as military technology, distinct from civilian applications, ensuring they remained several steps ahead in security. The magical technology boom was underway, bringing to life ideas once deemed unattainable. It was imperative to safeguard these innovations, maintaining their secrecy and integrity. After a week in the alchemy department, John was ready to leave, only to be confronted by Deputy Dean Dharma Alex. The man appeared haggard, with bloodshot eyes and an aura of frustration. John immediately sensed that his plans for the day would be derailed. As expected, Dharma Alex was preoccupied with breaking a vampire curse. Despite being a leading figure in curse breaking, the vampire curse had stumped him. John, too, had examined the curse and sensed something amiss, a realization that deepened his frown. Chapter 799, The Origin of Vampires. John's pupils dilated as he scrutinized the nuances between the two samples of blood. The difference in curses was stark. Holding the vial in his left hand, he inquired, "Did the blood nun send this?" "Yes," replied Dharma Alex, his appearance markedly worn. Dark circles underscored his eyes, and his weight had fluctuated significantly. As a potion master, Alex possessed a unique skill set, enabling him to maintain a high level of research enthusiasm through unconventional means. He would indulge in excessive eating during his downtime to quickly replenish his energy, ensuring his body remained operational for his work. This practice, however, took a toll on his physique, causing it to fluctuate between bloated and emaciated states. At present, Alex looked as though he was on the brink of collapse, a sight that might lead some to believe John was overworking the middle-aged man. Upon receiving Alex's confirmation, John examined another vial of blood. To the untrained eye, both samples appeared identical, but John, with his ability to see chaotic particles, recognized a profound difference. The sample in his left hand carried a curse potent enough to transform humans, while the other contained fewer curses, replaced instead by a highly active virus. Both samples originated from vampires, yet they were distinctly different. John pondered. It seems Johnny was correct. There are indeed differences in the origins of these two types of vampires. He concluded that the wizard vampire's existence bore more resemblance to a curse-induced birth, whereas muggle vampires appeared to be the result of mutations. Although a curse was present in the latter, it primarily served to sustain the vampire's bloodlust. "Can you discern any difference?" asked Dharma Alex, his face weary and surrounded by a dark aura that filled the room. John replied, "Visually and in terms of specific ingredients, there's no apparent difference. However, when used in potions, they undergo completely distinct transformations." Without a word, Alex glanced at two cages shrouded in black cloth. John approached and unveiled them, revealing a dying rabbit with fangs and a chicken that had been dead for approximately 2.5 days. Despite his prowess as a potion master, Alex's disdain for cleanliness was evident. John, surprised, asked, "You didn't directly test these, did you?" Alex turned away, his guilt apparent. Such recklessness was frowned upon in the scientific community. "Okay, I admit I did. Otherwise, distinguishing between the two blood samples would have been impossible," Alex confessed, his frustration palpable. John shook his head. For potion masters, practical experimentation often led to swift revelations. The alchemy department has developed a new magic microscope inspired by Muggle technology. "You should acquire one tomorrow," John suggested, emphasizing the importance of blending magic with technology for such endeavors. "Research cannot solely rely on guesswork, Dharma Alex," John advised. "These vampires stem from different ancestral branches, indicating distinct origins. We must tailor our approach accordingly." With a snap of his fingers, John opened all the windows, allowing the dense black smoke to escape and significantly improving the room's visibility. "Also, try to limit your intake of stimulating potions. They're not a substitute for rest," John cautioned Alex, who had mistakenly believed the effects were due to a curse. John then turned his attention to the surviving rabbit, noting the life-draining curse it endured. The curse is too potent for these creatures. It doesn't kill immediately, but gradually saps their vitality. In contrast, the chicken's death seemed not to result from a curse, but from a viral invasion. The disruption of a chicken's body system by a curse was so severe that it caused the chicken to explode. Intrigued by the peculiarities of wizard and muggle vampires, as well as their connection to werewolves, John pondered the improbability of two distinct QRCs resulting in the same species by mere chance. Vampires, primarily nocturnal creatures, conduct most of their activities under the cover of night. John penned a letter to Cindy, which upon return bore traces of human blood on Basil's feather. Distressed, Basil attempted to rid himself of the blood by vigorously pecking at his feathers. Riddle, noticing Basil's distress, approached and illuminated the stubborn blood with a white light from its eyes, causing the blood to peel off quickly. Basil, relieved, showed his gratitude by nuzzling against Riddle, who merely responded with a cold lift of its head. John's correspondence with Bloody revealed the vampire's abode during the dead of night. To preempt any misunderstandings, Shuini immediately explained the bloodstain on Basil, recounting how Basil had inadvertently flown into the vampire's house during dinner. Shuini shared her preference for procuring blood from the Muggle world, despite often finding the taste unsatisfactory. She mentioned that blood nuns favored the blood of young girls, especially if it was type AB and freshly drawn. Bloody provided information about the Vampire Council, tracing their lineage back to the infamous vampire Cain, who was purportedly cursed by God for fratricide. This curse, distinct from that of werewolves, intrigued Bloody, who expressed a desire for John to overcome it. Dharma Alex, taking on the challenge, seemed motivated by a desire to prove himself, prompting John to consider warning Professor Slughorn about Alex's potential recklessness. John, opting not to involve himself directly, reflected on the importance of delegation and training within a team. Observing Basil's interaction with Riddle, he noted the disdain they showed for Tom, the dog unable to join them atop the owl stand. Tom, missing his former playmates, sought comfort in John's lap. John, stroking the dog, reminisced about livelier times at Silverhand Manor as a petal, transformed into a butterfly, fluttered to Tom's nose, causing a playful reaction. This narrative captures the complexities of magical creatures and their interactions, highlighting themes of curiosity, caution, and companionship within the magical world. Tom playfully chased a butterfly, its transformation from pink petals a delightful sight that caught his attention. In the vast emptiness of the manor, his pursuit seemed to bring a semblance of life to the otherwise silent halls. John, emerging from the study, watched the scene unfold with a gentle smile. As Tom moved, the lights flickered on in his path, illuminating the manor in a warm glow, reminiscent of more vibrant times. The air filled with echoes of laughter and chatter, akin to the lively atmosphere of Hogwarts. Yet despite the semblance of prosperity, the vibrancy was but an illusion. Tom eventually caught the butterfly, which landed delicately on his nose. He watched it intently, his tongue hanging out slightly, waiting for it to take flight once more. However, the butterfly reverted to a petal, carried by the wind, and fell onto the luxurious carpet. The intruding breeze seemed to reclaim the manor's opulence, leaving behind a silence that spoke volumes. Basil, perched on the chandelier, observed Tom, who sat motionless, perhaps contemplating the fleeting nature of the moment. As the lights dimmed, the manor succumbed once again to its inherent quietness and darkness, a stark reminder of the solitude that pervaded its walls. Chapter 800, A New Semester Begins Today, marks a melancholic day, especially for Malfoy. He watched with a heavy heart as Astoria boarded the flying car, a model not yet available on the market. Mr. Greengrass kept a vigilant eye on Malfoy through the rearview mirror. "Draco, I've packed all your favorite snacks," he said, gesturing towards a large bag of new snack gift boxes seated next to Astoria. "I'll get in touch as soon as I arrive at school." Malfoy managed a weak smile. "It's okay, I'm not in a rush." Astoria chimed in. "A Quidditch club has reached out to me. Would that upset you?" Malfoy forced a smile. "No, not at all. You're free to join any club you like." "I'm glad I didn't choose a club for you. It might have limited your options," Mr. Greengrass remarked, glancing at Malfoy, who was still clinging to the car window. With a hint of irritation, he announced, "We're ready to leave." Astoria, hearing her father, waved to Malfoy. "Take care and please, avoid using that belt. It's easy to get hurt." "I will." "You take care too," Malfoy replied, trying to maintain his composure as he let go of the car door. "Goodbye, Draco," Astoria said softly. "Goodbye, Addo," Malfoy responded, his voice tinged with sadness. Without further delay, Mr. Greengrass pressed the accelerator, and the car began to move. Malfoy, unable to let go, started walking alongside the car. "Enjoy your time at school, and don't hesitate to tell me if anyone bothers you," he called out, his pace quickening as the car sped up. "Asto, remember, it's okay even if you lose a game. Just be happy," Malfoy shouted, now running, tears streaming down his face. "Asto! Asto!" he continued, his voice breaking. "Asto, take care of yourself, since I won't be there," he cried out, chasing the car for several hundred meters. This poignant moment was witnessed by John, who turned to Daphne with a puzzled look. "Why didn't you stop him?" Daphne offered a smile, though her grip on her wand betrayed her tension. Minutes later, Malfoy was found hanging from a laurel tree at the Greengrass estate, a spectacle that John had come to witness thanks to Astoria's invitation. Known for her emotional intelligence, Astoria had inherited her mother's knack for persuasion, unlike Daphne, who seemed to follow Mr. Greengrass's less discerning traits. To support her sister, Astoria had informed John about her departure for school, convincing him to visit. John had initially thought the farewell would be at King's Cross Station, but Astoria's insistence brought him here, just in time to witness the dramatic scene of Malfoy chasing after the car. I was convinced Mr. Greengrass was about to make the car fly with how desperately Malfoy was running, John remarked, half amused by the day's events. As the first day of school at Hogwarts commenced, John planned to visit Hogwarts in October as a guest for the school league. The aftermath of hanging Malfoy left Daphne in a state of shock, compounded by the absence of the family's house elf, who had been sent on an errand by Mrs. Greengrass. Now alone in the vast manor with John, Daphne fidgeted nervously. Had she known about his visit, she would have dressed more appropriately. Instead, she found herself in casual, comfortable home attire, devoid of any perfume. "Are you hungry?" she asked tentatively. "I've learned to cook Indian cuisine," she added, hoping to divert the conversation. John, intrigued, replied, "I'm not particularly hungry, but I doubt Malfoy has had the chance to eat." "Oh, he's definitely not hungry," Daphne responded, trying to lighten the mood. Malfoy, unbeknownst to him, had narrowly escaped a worse fate by being hung up. John's visit to the Greengrass house sparked curiosity. "This is my first time visiting your home," John observed, admiring the laurelwood decorations and the family crest. The corridor was lined with portraits of the Greengrass ancestors, each approaching the picture frame with a sense of history and legacy. The portrait muttered, "Hey, I know him. We all know he's my great-granddaughter Daphne Shy." "Silence!" Daphne swiftly silenced the hall, casting a spell to mute the portrait's voice. Despite the great-grandfather's attempts to yell, no sound emerged. Daphne's piercing gaze swept across the ancestors, causing the group of portraits to scatter in fright. John, intrigued, explored the rooms of the manor. "Mr. Greenglass intends for you to take over the family business soon," he said, walking leisurely. "After officially relocating to the Magic Kingdom, I plan to have Greenglass manage the transportation business for wizards in various places." Stopping in front of a room, John turned to Daphne and said seriously, "That's no small task. It involves not just wizarding business, but also Muggle affairs and those ships responsible for the last battle's harvest." His reddish-brown eyes seemed to draw Daphne in as he added, "It means it's going to be very demanding." "And you?" Daphne, her gray-blue eyes meeting John's, asked, "Aren't you tired?" "Me?" John chuckled, taken aback. "How could I be? I am the Witch King. When I take on this responsibility, I cannot simply give up because of personal fatigue." They were in the great hall of House Greenglass, adorned with fine furniture and laurelwood. A huge oil painting depicted the hall, which was bathed in sunlight, dazzlingly bright. Standing in the sun, John told Daphne, "I'm grateful to have friends by my side. When I'm tired, I think about everything I hold dear and how I'm striving to make it better for them." He smiled, and Daphne felt compelled to follow him. She stepped out of the shadow, eager to be closer to the king she admired. Suddenly feeling courageous, she reached out and gently grasped John's left hand. "I just want to follow you, my king." Daphne gazed at John intently, her simple dress as elegant as a black evening gown. She knelt slightly, bringing his hand to her lips for a gentle kiss, then looked up at him with a smile that could shatter hearts. The scene was so picturesque it was hard to distinguish from the oil painting. It resembled a princess kissing a ring or a knight pledging allegiance. John raised his right hand, approaching Daphne slowly. Her heart raced, and she felt dizzy with anticipation. Her cheeks flushed, visible even through the loose fabric of her dress. She closed her eyes and tilted her head, waiting for a kiss. But instead of the expected embrace, John adjusted her dress, commenting, "This dress seems too large, but I acknowledge your determination to take over Greengrass." Daphne opened her eyes to John's sincere observation. Looking down at her dress, she couldn't hide her disappointment. "I thought we were about to kiss," she exclaimed. The outburst echoed in the hall, drawing the attention of the Greengrass ancestors. They crowded the painting, beating their chests and stomping their feet in a display of frustration. Even Daphne's great-grandfather, silenced earlier, expressed his indignation through vivid body language. The lobby was abuzz with chatter, resembling the chaos of a bustling market. The ancestors who had been observing the scene were collectively disappointed. "We've been watching for so long, only for this," they complained. Among them, an elderly aunt, who had never married, boasted about her past suitors. She claimed that if she hadn't remained steadfast, the Malfoy family might now bear the surname Greengrass. Daphne's cheeks flushed a deep red, her embarrassment growing by the second. In such moments, Daphne found herself desperately seeking an outlet for the frustration and embarrassment bubbling inside her. It was then that Malfoy burst into the hall, visibly enraged. 2.5 hours! I was left hanging for 2.5 hours! He exclaimed, his voice filled with indignation. Doesn't anyone care to rescue me? He continued, his dissatisfaction echoing through the room. As Daphne slowly turned to face the commotion, John glanced at his pocket watch. I must be going. Miss Maxim expects me at Boban to fulfill my promise, he said. With a brief farewell, he extended his finger, conjuring an air portal before stepping through it and vanishing from sight. The ancestors dispersed once more, leaving the scene as if nothing unusual had occurred. Meanwhile, Mr. Greengrass returned home after seeing his daughter off. Upon spotting Malfoy at the doorstep of the Greengrass residence, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of indifference and amusement.